What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we're back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto went back in time to save the Uzumaki clan? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. An old man sat on a small log in the middle of a forest deep within the region of Fire Country. He had a long beard that was so long it touched the ground. His head was bald with a small amount of white hair going down the back of his head and a X-shaped scar on the front of his forehead. This man was wearing an orange trench coat with a black spiral on the back to signify what clan he belonged to, and was wearing a black shirt with black pants. He had shinobi sandals on, shin guards, arm guards, and resting beside him was a large wooden staff he used as a cane. Though in truth, it was much more than that. As for who this person was in life, his name? Uzumaki Naruto. "You are coming with us," commanded a masked Anbu shinobi with a headband signifying he was from Konoha, along with his team consisting of 20 other identical figures appearing from the shadows. And on the sleeves of their arms was the crest of the Uchiha clan to further signify who they all followed. The figure that was now identified as Uzumaki Naruto ignored while he seemed to stare at nothing while smoking from his pipe. The very one that at one point belonged to the Sandaime Hokage himself. "And just what does your honorable Hokage for an Uchiha want with me?" asked Naruto in an old, yet still strong voice. "You sent the 9 Biju away from this world. We are here to bring you back to Konoha, where you are hereby ordered to reverse what you have done and seal them again in those chosen by Hokage-sama himself. You are to create 9 new Jinchuriki for Konoha to use in the growing confrontation with the other 4 shinobi villages rebelling against us," commanded the Anbu captain, who saw Naruto blow some smoke out from his mouth. "My answer, like the last time a team came to see me, is still the same." "No," replied Naruto firmly, while the team of Anbus suddenly drew their weapons. "We have been authorized to use force to bring you back. Hokage-sama doesn't need you to cooperate. Just your knowledge on what you did and how to reverse it, which he will get from your mind. One way or another," threatened the Anbu captain, while Naruto just sighed. "I told Sasuke to leave me alone. Time and time again, I have told that fool to leave me in peace. To let me live my life away from Konoha after everything I have lost. After I had my dreams taken from me. But like all Uchiha, he doesn't listen to others, nor does he try to think beyond his own desires or ambitions in a quest for more power." Kurama was indeed correct. The Uchiha clan is a cursed clan. Just as Konoha has become a cursed village, remarked Naruto before putting the pipe away. "You traitorous bastard," exclaimed an angry Anbu to the captain's right, who signaled for him to calm down while keeping an eye on the old man in front of them. Naruto wasn't always this old looking. It had been a price he was forced to pay. One the Shinigami told him would be the cost when the Uzumaki summoned him and wanted to free the Biju from being turned into tools of war again. It had happened shortly after the 4th Shinobi War had ended and peace happened throughout the lands, and all was well, at least at first. Until Sasuke was made the 7th Hokage. As it turned out, Naruto couldn't become Hokage of Konoha due to his mother being from the Uzumaki clan in Uzu, and thus considered a foreigner at the time when she came to the village. The law stated no one of foreigner blood from another country or shinobi village could become Hokage. That only someone of such decadency after 3 generations down could have that right. By that point, they were considered to be pure-blooded Konoha citizens. Once that happened, and the chance of betraying the village had been successfully bred out. It was a law imposed by the Sandaime Hokage himself during his younger years as the ruler of the village. He had made this rule, officially, as a precaution, should enemies of Konoha try to infiltrate Konoha as refugees, seduce some of its people, and then raise the children, they had to usurp the power of the village from within. To prevent possible traitors and sleeper agents from destroying the village once the next generation were full grown. The Uzumaki clan had been no exception to this particular law. In fact, it seemed the law was designed specifically for them. Which was why Kushina couldn't be Hokage despite her actually being stronger than Minato was in many aspects. The man tried to repeal the law, but the Sandaime and Jiraiya had been against it, along with several other members on the council, despite Kushina's ranting at times at it being unfair since she had been loyal to Konoha for years after joining their ranks following the Uzumaki clan's fall during the Second Shinobi War. Of course, both Koharu and Homura had been most adamant about this rule being used when the nominations came up for who would succeed Tsunade as Hokage following Sasuke being pardoned for his past crimes. The two old bats went on and on about how Naruto couldn't be trusted to handle the many responsibilities surrounding the duties of being Hokage. How Sasuke was truly someone who would take it seriously and lead Konoha down a path worthy of the title. Naturally, Naruto felt betrayed by this, and even more so when Sasuke accepted it with a smirk on his face. As if the Uchiha had always known this would happen and was just now showing his hand on the matter. But Naruto endured. He may not have had the title of Hokage, but that didn't mean the man couldn't have a family, and children to call his own who could take the hat one day. Tsunade apologized to him and he accepted it since the woman had fought for his right to be Hokage during the nominations every step of the way. Not that it matters shortly after, as his lovely wife Hinata, and their two children were his pride and joy in Konoha. Their love helping his scarred heart healing quite nicely and making him forget about the betrayal delivered against him. Only for his loving family to be taken away from him via the hands of death. Or more specifically, they were all killed on secret orders by Koharu, Homura, Sasuke, and the Hyuga elders. Naruto was given an assignment by Sasuke for a diplomatic mission outside of Konoha to handle some growing tensions near Earth Country. A mission where Naruto wasn't supposed to come back from since it was secretly a trap to end his life in order to remove him as a threat to the grand plan Sasuke wished to invoke using the 9 Biju and his Sharingan. When Naruto was away on his mission, Sasuke ordered his Anbu to kill Hinata at the request of the Hyuga elders, and also her children to ensure none of Naruto's progeny could be a future threat to the Uchiha's rule. Hinata, however, was not a meek woman to be crossed when it came to protecting her children, and showed it by killing almost all of the Anbu attacking the house. She would have prevailed against them had it not been for Sasuke showing up at the last moment and moved to kill her children with his Chidori intent on being aimed for a 2-for-1 kill. Hinata used her body as a shield to take the hit to the heart, but with her last act of strength, she struck Sasuke in various points, took one of his eyes, and even made the man sterile so he would be denied having any progeny of his own to continue his legacy. Enraged by what Hinata had done since she told him, Sasuke used what strength he had left along with his remaining Anbu in the area, and burned the Uzumaki house down with the intended targets inside. Hinata had held her 2 scared children close while they wept and she told them it was all right. That they would be going to a nice place where no one could hurt them ever again. They asked if Daddy would join them and Hinata could only smile at the two before kissing their foreheads. And soon after, the fire consumed them. When Naruto returned to Konoha, he was furious beyond belief, as his assassins sent to kill him on his mission. Konoha all were killed violently, and after torturing the leader of the group, slowly, he now knew who sent them. When he got back home, the blonde knew something was amiss, and found his house burned to the ground with the smoke still rising from the remains. Walking through it, Naruto saw the bodies of his wife and children holding each other close. At first, Naruto didn't understand how this could happen, but a burned message, written in charred blood, Hinata's blood, burned into the wood of the floor, and told him all he needed to know about who caused this. Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto wasted no time kicking down the door of the Hokage's office. He saw that Sasuke, the Hyuga elders, Homura, and Koharu were shocked to see Naruto not only alive, but relatively unharmed. Stained in blood, yes, but it wasn't his blood. Many of the ninja in the tower tried to stop him from heading to Sasuke's office, but they were either killed, or were badly injured by him. Before they could do or say anything, Naruto unleashed his fury on them, and the Anbu in the room. Homura and Koharu were the first to die. They were old and weak so they were of no consequence, same with the Hyuga elders being in the same boat, and too old to move to defend themselves. But Sasuke was a different matter and deserved to suffer greatly at his hands. The Uchiha was weakened from what Hinata had done to him and Naruto was not going to give Sasuke a chance to win their fight. Said fight spilled into the streets below, where Naruto proceeded to beat the living hell out of Sasuke, calling him a traitor, coward, backstabber, a power-hungry bastard, and the murderer of his family. Despite everything, Sasuke smirked when Naruto called him the last part, and the Uchiha called his former friend a fool for showing mercy and asking the daimyos to pardon him. How he had taken everything from Naruto and now the loser could truly understand him in a way no one else could. How the darkness would now consume Naruto like it was always meant to, and the Uchiha would finally succeed in breaking the will of an Uzumaki. Naruto, however, was not one to break like Sasuke thought. Instead, Naruto decided to take something else from Sasuke to further, even the playing field, and drew his sword he had acquired from his mother's homeland. Before Sasuke could do or say anything, Naruto took his remaining eye, and his bandaged arm meant to replace his real one during the Fourth Shinobi War. "You're nothing to me now, Sasuke. You're not my brother or a friend. You are my enemy. All the shinobi who follow you are my enemy. It doesn't matter if they were my friends or not. Any shinobi who comes for me from this day forward in your name is my enemy. And I will kill them. You wanted me to break, Sasuke, but I'm not going to break. I'm going to do what you can't do. Endure. I'm going to live and you are going to rot. The world will know just how rotten you are and leave you to your fate along with this rotting village." Those had been his final words to Sasuke before Naruto left with Kurama so the Uchiha wouldn't use him for his own twisted purposes. Just because Sasuke lost his eyes didn't mean there weren't replacements he could use for the same purpose. Since then, Naruto had been a wanted man throughout Konoha and Fire Country despite what Sasuke had done. All Konoha nin now had standing orders to find and kill Naruto should he be located by them. But that wasn't all. Apparently, the other Kages heard what the Uchiha had done, and wanted no part of what the Hokage was planning to do. They closed off their borders and sent a message to Sasuke for his shinobi to enter at their own risk, for Konoha was now their enemy. Enraged, Sasuke, upon being healed, declared war on them all, calling each village traitors to Konoha, and declared his to be the one true shinobi village of the elemental countries. How he was the supreme Kage, who ruled over all the other Kages. He even went so far as to declare that all shinobi villages and their Kages should and would swear loyalty to him or be destroyed by his power. That they would bend the knee or he would break their backs before ending their lives along with the lives of their progeny. Hence the beginning of the Fifth Shinobi War, or as the people of Konoha called it, the Rebellion of the Four Kages. Naruto stayed out of it for the most part. He needed time to mourn the loss of his wife and children. That all changed when the few remaining loyal spies from his network had gained were able to inform him of Sasuke's plan to win the war. To gather all of the 9 Biju via the use of his replacement Sharingan eyes. To force them into submission with the power of his dojutsu and unleash enslaved Biju on the 4 Kages and their allied forces. Naturally, Naruto could not let this stand. The Biju had earned the right to live and be free from being sealed by humans. From being used by power-hungry humans for their wars. From being seen only as tools, slaves, or weapons to be used for personal gain in conquering the world. So Naruto decided to do the only thing he could do given the situation. He would gather the 9 Biju himself and send them away to a realm where humans couldn't use them. Where they could be safe, free, happy, everything they were denied in life. Shortly after, the sage created them from the chakra of the Jubi sealed in his body. So Naruto went to each village, one by one, speaking to the Biju about his plan, how he wanted to prevent Sasuke's plan from happening, how it was the only way that Sasuke or any other human in the future could be denied such ambitions. Reluctantly, each Biju agreed with him, and eventually joined Naruto in the ruins of Uzu to perform the means to take them to such a place. Of course, opening such a portal to a realm like that required a price be paid to a deity capable of cutting a hole to such a place. And the only one Naruto could think of who could be summoned for such an assignment had been the Shinigami. When the deity stood in front of him, Naruto told the Shinigami what he wanted, and was willing to pay the price if it meant Sasuke's plans would fail. The Shinigami, for all of his deathly appearance, looked quite impressed with the Uzumaki standing before him. As such, the Shinigami did not take his soul like Naruto thought he would, but rather asked for something else in return. Something the Biju protested, since what was being asked was possibly worse. The Shinigami had demanded that the price for Naruto's overall plans to succeed was the man's youth. That the Uzumaki be turned into an old Uzumaki. Granted, he would still be strong, even by the standards of an elder Uzumaki, but still aged to the point where he would be a very old-looking man. However, to even the playing field, the Shinigami gave Naruto's sword a piece of its essence to bond to the man, and become what the deity had called a Zanpakuto. A sword of incredible power. One only Naruto could truly wield. A sword that would be able to bring the world to its knees should its fully strength be unleashed. And with this incredible power, the equally incredible knowledge on how to use it properly against his enemies. Without hesitation on his part, Naruto agreed to the terms the Shinigami set, and let the other villages know what he did to deny Sasuke his plans for the Biju. After that, Sasuke became livid beyond measure. He had ordered for Naruto's capture and to be brought back to Konoha to not only undo what he had done, but to face Hokage's justice, as he called it. Since then, Naruto had been the most wanted man in Fire Country, but no one could pin him down in terms of location unless he wanted to be found. When they did, it was usually Konoha shinobi sent by Sasuke to capture him, and they usually died slow painful deaths. None of Naruto's true friends like the rookies, Guy's old team, or the Konohamaru Corps were among those sent. Tsunade and Shizune left too. So did Naruto's favorite ramen stand owners. Even the various senseis of the rookies and their own set of children to ensure something of the next generation holding the true will of fire survived. They knew when to leave and did leave when they saw just how corrupt Konoha had become under Sasuke's rule. Only Sakura stayed to support Sasuke's rule of tyranny, determined to fix Sasuke's sterility, and to one day have his child. Or at least she was determined. Before Naruto killed her on a C-ranked mission she was on and sent what was left of the woman's body back to Sasuke in tiny pieces. It is well that you are all idiots. It makes the motion of killing you all feel less heavy on my heart, remarked Naruto before he vanished in a blur and appeared behind them 1 second later. Soon after, the Anbu fell to the ground dead due to being sliced to pieces. But this wasn't enough for Naruto. No, this had to end now. This had to end with Konoha being burned to the ground and its ashes scattered into the winds. While Naruto knew he was stronger than Sasuke would ever be for years to come right now, his body was still old, and Uzumaki or not, age catches up with you. Naruto wasn't going to be like Sarutobi Hiruzen and let this Uchiha version of Orochimaru be allowed to do what he wanted in the hopes of repenting in the future. The Uchiha had his chance for redemption and pissed it all away. All of Konoha had the chance to change and only the minority of them did. A small minority too. Smirking slightly, Naruto had an idea on just how to hit this problem in the bud, and end this nonsense permanently with Sasuke. It was dangerous, suicidal, and ultimately mean his end. But, he wouldn't be Uzumaki Naruto if that didn't fit his personality perfectly. Konoha 1 week later. Konoha sounded the alarm. Shinobi from the village swarmed the main gate, armed at the ready, weapons drawn, and chakras surging through them to use jutsus. They all stared at the figure who was the source of this action with a bit of fear, apprehension, and anger all mixed into one. Not surprising since they lost many of their comrades to this elderly man and the rumored power he wielded. Even if he didn't look it. Behind these shinobi of Konoha came Sasuke, wearing his Hokage hat and robes with the Uchiha symbol on the back of the robes as if to signify only an Uchiha could be Hokage. Not surprising since fire was the main affinity of the Uchiha clan and felt no one else could hold the right to be Hokage due to that stipulation. So loser, you've finally decided to show yourself after all this time in hiding. Did you come to acknowledge my greatness? Come to beg for forgiveness? To help me end this stupid rebellion by the other cages? Remarked Sasuke with a smirk at seeing just how old his former friend looked. No, on all counts, Sasuke. You are not worthy of my help, much less acknowledgement of greatness. You are lower than trash, replied Naruto with Sasuke scowling at him. Says the weak old man currently standing before me, who looks like a mere gust of wind could easily knock him over with little to no effort, countered Sasuke harshly while he saw Naruto now sporting a smirk and letting out a chuckle. Come now, Sasuke Teme, if there is one thing you should have learned by now after all this time, is that you should never ever underestimate a member of the Uzumaki clan. Especially when that Uzumaki just so happens to be me. Stated Naruto with his eyes suddenly going from humorous to cold and icy. Restrain him, ordered Sasuke with his eyes active, and his shinobi moved in to take Naruto down. Only to be hit with an invisible weight of pressure and see Naruto's hunched form now straighten with the look of a warrior replacing the friendly weak old man. Removing his coat, Naruto revealed his body was not one of a weak frail old man like he made others here believe, but a hardened warrior of battle, and with the scars to prove it. His eyes were one of fury, fire, and conviction that Sasuke had never seen before until now in Naruto. Fools, you follow a false cage. Sasuke believes himself better than everyone around him and all should fall at his feet as if he were a god. In truth, he would see you all burn in order to escape my wrath, but I will not allow it. This village has become corrupt. The will of fire has become one of darkness and hatred. It must be burned out and cleansed from this world, said Naruto before his crude-looking walking stick turned into a sword and he grabbed the hilt. Damn you loser. I don't know what you are about to do, but I won't allow it to happen. You hear me? You are going to die here. This world is mine. Its people are mine. My vision of the world as I see it is LAW. Yelled Sasuke in defiance while wishing he could move his body to stop Naruto. Wrong. Your vision of the world is about to be destroyed. Reduce all creation into ash. Ryujin Jaka! Exclaimed Naruto before a seemingly unstoppable wave of fire exploded from his being and consumed all who stood in its path. Namely his enemies. None survived the onslaught. All of Konoha was consumed in the fire, the intense blade of it all destroying everything, and everyone in the village. Some tried to run, but they did not get very far, and the buildings themselves easily fell apart from the intensity of the blaze. And Naruto was just getting started. Calling forth all his power, he made the fire spin violently in a circle over the whole village before it split into four, and dived down into the earth below. Only to rise up in four different corners of and shot up toward the heavens with the desire to leave nothing of the village being evident in his actions. This place was going to burn and everything around it for miles. Not even the Hokage monument would be spared. Not that it was much of a monument anymore. Sasuke had taken the other Hokage heads down and replaced them all with one giant head of himself to further enforce his greatness. To show everyone that he was the greatest Hokage that Konoha would ever had or needed in its lifetime. Naruto saw it as an insult and eyesore. Do not worry Hinata, my children, I'm coming home, thought Naruto before closing his eyes and brought all his strength down on the village to cause a massive explosion. Deidara the mad bomber of Iwa would have praised him as a god if he were alive to see the end result of Naruto's actions. As for Naruto, he embraced his oblivion without fear. Why should he? His enemies were no more. The war that Sasuke started was now at an end. Peace would return to the world once more. The remaining four cages would endure in ruling their villages without him and hopefully wouldn't try to kill each other anytime soon. And even then, it was no longer his concern. I wouldn't be too sure of that my boy, came the gravely voice of the Shinigami. I see. So you've come to take back the power you gave me, remarked Naruto with the Shinigami letting out a chuckle. No I am not, replied the Shinigami. Then why are you here? Asked Naruto with the Shinigami looking almost tired. I need your help dear boy. The world as you know is not what it should be or should have been for many years. In fact, the world as you have lived it up until now has been wrong, answered the Shinigami with Naruto looking surprised. So my life as I know was a mistake? Is that it? Questioned Naruto with the Shinigami shaking his head. No, not a mistake, just wrong. Your mother's clan for one. It should not have been destroyed, replied the Shinigami. And yet it was. By 4 of the 5 shinobi villages no less, remarked Naruto with the Shinigami shaking its head. Not 4, 5. All 5 shinobi villages had a hand in it. Konoha included, replied the Shinigami with Naruto looking at him shock and horror. What? Whispered Naruto while the Shinigami nodded. After Sarutobi Hiruzen became the Hokage, he feared for the future of Konoha. He knew the Uzumaki clan was growing in strength, in power. It would only be a matter of time before the clan allied with Konoha would become its own entity. And given how members of the Uzumaki clan are the only ones capable of holding Kyuubi, he felt they needed to be crippled to prevent them from ever having such strength, said the Shinigami while Naruto was furious. Who else was involved in that decision? Who else knew the truth? Asked Naruto though he had a good idea on most if not all of them. Hiruzen's old teammates of course. His former rival Shimura Danzo. Orochimaru helped plot where to strike. And Jiraiya in order to go acquire your mother for the transfer of the Kyuubi from Mito to her, answered the Shinigami while Naruto was once again floored. Jiraiya was involved? Orochimaru I could see. Danzo and those other 2 bastards. But Jiraiya? Questioned Naruto while feeling the bond he had with the Sannin break. He helped disable the security and trap seals that would have destroyed the advanced enemy attack force. He also used his spy network to leak the secret passages the enemy ninja could slip into the village to perform the pincer attack Orochimaru helped devise to make it successful. He knew the one Uzumaki acquired from the clan would be able to do Fuinjutsu easily. In fact, Mito left a great deal of knowledge for her to learn from after your mother came here. Hiruzen knew this and made sure Kushina would put the skills gained to good use for Konoha's benefit. Didn't you find it odd that both Hiruzen and his student knew about your clan, your mother, and what they could do? Yet they did not once make sure you were taught those same skills? Explained the Shinigami with Naruto's face contorting with rage. What do I need to do? You clearly have some idea on how to fix things so the life I have lived doesn't repeat itself a second time, replied Naruto with the Shinigami nodding. I will send you back in time, Naruto. Back before you were born. During the days of the Second Shinobi War. You will alter events so your clan does not fall and Konoha as you know it does not act the way it did, answered the Shinigami. And what happens when I do something that alters time and erases me from existence? Do you care if I decide to crush Konoha if I so choose? Questioned Naruto while the Shinigami shakes his head. No, the first part won't happen. You will be sent back, but not as Uzumaki Naruto. You will in truth be sent back as another member of the Uzumaki clan. As for the village that helped betray you, do as you see fit unless I tell you otherwise, answered the Shinigami with Naruto raising an eyebrow at the deity. So I go back in time as myself, but not as myself so I won't risk destroying myself in the distant future. Is that correct? Asked Naruto with the Shinigami nodding. Yes, with the proper alterations to the timeline, your future self will grow up strong, well-educated, and more importantly, have a family who will love you no matter what, replied the Shinigami with Naruto nodding. I don't suppose it's too much to ask for a much younger body, is it? While I am no slouch in this form as you know, I would prefer to live long enough to at least see myself being born, replied Naruto with the Shinigami chuckled. I can give you back your energy so you can live longer, but the current form you are in stays the same. After all, I think you would find it funny to see grown men barely a third of your current aged form being unable to win against you in a fight, remarked the Shinigami with Naruto thinking it over before nodding. Well, he's not wrong, thought Naruto before the deity gave him back his energy and the old-looking Uzumaki felt stronger in the process. It is time. When you awaken in the world of the living, you will no longer be Uzumaki Naruto. He doesn't exist yet. You will be Uzumaki Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, declared the Shinigami with Naruto's sweat dropping at the long-ass name. Can't you just call me Uzumaki Yamamoto for short? Asked Naruto with the Shinigami letting out a chuckle while showing his face did look a tad sheepish. Yes, I suppose it is a bit long, remarked the Shinigami while Naruto sighed a bit at the deity. I'm ready. Let's get this over with, said Naruto impatiently. Even after aging into an old man you still act impatient, commented the Shinigami. I'm an Uzumaki. What did you expect? Countered Naruto with a small huff. Indeed, said the Shinigami before he opened the necessary portal for old Uzumaki to enter. It was time to change the history of the world as he knew, and for the better. It was an interesting experience for him to see his mother's homeland at the height of its power during the Second Shinobi War. He saw his Uzumaki kin walking around, being happy, healthy, full of life, and all around feeling good. A far cry from what would one day befall them and Uzu without his intervention in the months to come. The Second Shinobi War was escalating, Iwa was on the march, and Kumo was beside them in that regard. Suna and Kiri were also showing signs of choosing targets, but the time-traveled Uzumaki knew they would all converge on Uzu at the last possible moment. The elderly man suspected Jiraiya and his Kami-damned spy network had a hand in that if the revelation by the Shinigami on what the Sannin did in selling out the Uzumaki clan during this point in time as any indication. All of the misfortunate that befell the Uzumaki clan had shortly happened when Sarutobi Hiruzen became the Sandaime Hokage. That moment in time was actually several years ago and shortly following his reign there were clear signs of tension between Uzu and Konoha. Not surprising. We did want Mito here for the resealing of Kurama into a new host and they wouldn't allow it. Stating, security risk, this. Seal weakening, that. Bah, if they were truly so concerned about such things, they would have let us take her right out of Konoha in secret, and misdirecting the other villages with Ero Sennin's spy network. Instead, they had demanded we send one of our clan to Konoha for the resealing. The only reason I even allowed this to happen was so my mother would be holding Kurama and she would one day meet my father, thought one Uzumaki Yamamoto, who was also at one point in life from the future, and been called Uzumaki Naruto. But unlike before, this time he was a true full-blooded Uzumaki, and had all the skills one such as himself at his age possessed. As it turned out, there had actually been an Uzumaki clan member by the name of Uzumaki Yamamoto. Insert super long-ass name here. And was presumed dead for years sometime between the First and Second Shinobi War. No one knew if it was from old age or some vengeful shinobi from rival villages. Of course, when Naruto, or rather Yamamoto, showed up on the clan doorstep, many were hesitant to believe he was the genuine article, and asked where he was all this time. The proclaimed Yamamoto easily explained how he had gone into isolation in order to go on a spiritual journey of enlightenment. The fact he didn't get in touch with them during this was due to him losing track of time, and the old Uzumaki humbly apologized for it. Much to the heavy sweat dropping and face-planted reactions of his kin when he said, "I got lost on the road of spiritual life. My bad," before giving a hearty Uzumaki chuckle. Following that particular moment, Uzumaki Yamamoto was now part of the clan once more, and was considered a key advisor to the Uzumaki clan head. Many suggested he take over as clan head, seeing as he was the oldest if not strongest Uzumaki around, but Yamamoto told them that it wasn't for him, and trusted the current clan head to do things right. "Hey old man," exclaimed a red-haired girl running up to Yamamoto with a smile on her face. "Hello Kushina-chan, how are you?" asked Yamamoto while finding it interesting to see his mother this way. Since the last time he saw her was in his mind, full grown, and not afraid to hit him on the head for being what she considered rude. "I'm fine. Better than you, I bet, with your old bones," commented Kushina with a grin. Cute tick mark from Yamamoto and a punch to the girl's red-haired head. "My bones may be old, Kushina, but they have lost none of their strength," exclaimed an irritated Yamamoto before he realized just what he had done. He had just hit his former mother on the head. For a moment, he feared what would happen if Kushina found out her future son, who traveled back in time, had hit her right on the head as a child, and all over calling him old. Fortunately, the moment was shrugged off since he doubted she would ever find out, and it's not like anyone alive would be able to tell her the truth. Apart from himself. Which he had no intention of doing. "Ow, mean old Yama," exclaimed Kushina with a glare. "Snippy little tomato head," countered Yamamoto with Kushina's glare intensifying. "You take that back. I am not a tomato head," said Kushina while pointing at him. "No, I won't. Now if you will excuse me, I had to go. Bye for now, Tomato-chan," replied Yamamoto before he left via Shunpo, and ignoring the angry scream from the girl who would one day be Uzumaki Naruto's mother. And set in motion the reason why no one in Konoha dared call her a tomato after the first time an academy student there said it. Uzu Tower. Sometime later, Jiraiya from Konoha and a team of assigned Anbu are coming here tomorrow at the behest of the Hokage. They want to inspect the seals surrounding the key defensive sections of Uzu, said Uzumaki Garp, who felt Yamamoto should know about this, and hear what the older man felt about this. Not surprising, since they both had a growing dislike for Konoha. When Hashirama and Tobirama had been alive with the Hokage hat on their heads, all was well. The bonds between the two had been good, and Mito sent letters back home about Konoha and how she loved it. But since Hiruzen had been in power, the letters came less frequently, and it was clear the elderly woman didn't care for the village like she used to when her husband was alive. When the issue of transferring Kyuubi to another Uzumaki came up, Konoha had practically declared the Biju their property, and thus belonged to them regardless if the only one capable of holding the fox was an Uzumaki. Garp nearly came to blows with the young Hokage, and had to be restrained by 4 of his own Anbu. Hiruzen had an unreadable expression on his face, but the Uzumaki clan head could see through his stone-faced facade. In fact, Garp wondered why Mito wasn't at the meeting, and he had suspected it was due to the woman's sensory abilities detecting the true intentions of the Sandaime Hokage. Garp knew Mito loved her late husband and brother-in-law, but the Uzumaki clan cared for blood-related family first, no matter what. As such, Garp felt Mito would have the final say if she were there, and would have sided with her clan over Konoha if only to ensure things were done properly in Uzu by the most skilled Fuinjutsu masters. They also want to take Kushina to Konoha for transferring the Kyuubi from Mito into her, added Yamamoto with a frown. While I dislike the idea of using Kushina like this, we have to sadly be realistic that it's necessary in order to keep the Biju out of the hands of those who would abuse such power. Though given how Konoha has the Uchiha clan, I'm inclined to fight them on this. Mito is in her twilight years. She deserves to be buried here following the transfer. Not there. I don't care if Senju Hashirama was her husband. She is an Uzumaki, damn it. When she dies, her body should be resting peacefully here with dignity and honor as a member of our clan. Exclaimed Garp with Yamamoto nodding. But Hiruzen is holding most of the cards. We have the Seal Masters and the body for the transfer. They currently have the Biju and are playing on our clan's honor to give in to all of their demands. That we won't allow Mito to die and Konoha to perish while using our clan's beliefs against us, remarked Yamamoto while Garp frowning further since he had assumed the same thing. It's truly sickening to think Hashirama's own students would stoop so low to keep the Biju in Konoha. Homura and Kaharu I can see doing this. They both had a twinkle in their eyes at the idea of having a young Jinchuriki from our clan for them to mold to their own benefit. Even that emotion-banning twit Danzo is clearly frothing mentally at the mouth to have Kushina in Konoha as the next Jinchuriki. But Hiruzen? Hashirama often spoke of Hiruzen having the will of fire. Being honorable. Being loyal to friends as one would their family. Shows what he knows. Kami no shinobi my left sandal. He was the Kami no naive baka if there ever was one, added Garp while letting out a huff and leaning back against his chair. I'll keep an eye on them. Anything Jiraiya and the Anbu do to the seals, I can fix easily, and even improve them if possible, replied Yamamoto with Garp nodding. Your suspicions regarding Konoha are starting to become more accurate, my friend. We both know if anything does happen to our clan during this war, Kushina will be stuck in Konoha, and will have to face being disliked due to being considered a foreigner in their eyes. A new concept that has been growing steadily since Hiruzen took office as Hokage and one he has yet to suppress if what Mito's last letter is anything to go by, said Garp while Yamamoto frowned since he knew the fall of the Uzumaki clan started with the Sandaime Hokage's betrayal with the help of two of his students. I was under the impression poor Mito was getting too old and weak to send any more letters to us? Questioned Yamamoto with Garp shaking his head. No, that's what she wanted others in Konoha to believe. Mainly her doctors, who were appointed to her by Hiruzen. Remember, when she warned me of this slowly happening to her in one of the previous letters she sent? And you suspected it was more than that? I replied back to her and left a coded message in my letter to fake being weak to fool the doctors and medic nins so she could write back to us one day about what was happening in Konoha. She wrote back in code like I did and mentioned the words, strangling root, monkey anger, and poisonous toad. That tells me all is not well with Konoha. That such things are now currently aimed at us, explained Garp while he saw Yamamoto grip his walking stick even harder. Danzo, Hiruzen, and Jiraiya are all conspiring against the Uzumaki clan in order to take complete control over the future Kyuubi Jinchuriki. And not just Kushina, but any who follow her after being in Konoha, surmised Yamamoto with Garp nodding. Jiraiya has only recently been declared a master of Fuinjutsu. Though that's putting it lightly since he's not really up to our level, but his skills are just enough that he could effectively seal a lesser Biju into a body to make a Jinchuriki. With enough time and effort on his part, I'm sure Jiraiya could even use his knowledge of Fuinjutsu to seal the Kyuubi into another Uzumaki, replied Garp with Yamamoto grunting. Mito also warned me about the snake's slowly growing cruel mentality, as she called it, and to be just as cautious around the friends of the idiot monkey. Before I do something stupid, added Garp while Yamamoto was reminded of Orochimaru and Hiruzen's two teammates. He was looking forward to killing them all again. And indeed we shall. But first, we need to deal with the poisonous toad and his little escort entering our homeland. Once that is resolved and Kushina is the new Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, she should be allowed to come back home to be here with us to give her seal a proper inspection from time to time. Something we should strongly insist upon to Jiraiya when he is here to let him know Kushina will always be one of us first and foremost. No matter what Hiruzen or Konoha says on the matter regarding her being a Jinchuriki. The very name we labeled those who are makes my stomach turn, stated Yamamoto with Garp nodding. Agreed on all counts, my friend, replied Garp with Yamamoto nodding and leaving the room. He had work to do. Uzu the next day. Jiraiya knew his presence, much less the Anbu with him weren't going to be welcome in Uzu, but this was just ridiculous. The man came through the secret passage by an armed escort of 10 Uzu Anbu and got the distinct impression that these guys would kill him along with his team if not for the orders given by the Uzumaki clan head. Tensions had been building for some time, so Jiraiya could almost understand the need for such security, but the man also felt it was insulting that Uzu would even act this way, and toward him of all people. A student of the Sandaime Hokage himself. Of course, if the Uzumaki clan ever realized what one of the main and real reasons they were here today, one could say the people of Uzu were not in the wrong. The thing was, Hiruzen had given the order to secure Kushina, and at the same time make sure she was among the few Uzumaki left among the clan in the future after the war was over. Jiraiya didn't question his sensei and Hokage on the issue. If anything, he agreed with the man since Uzu was getting well known, and very powerful in their own right. It wouldn't be long before they were actually acknowledged as their own shinobi village. Minor village mind you for right now given it was all clan members in it, but in the future? Who really knows? They might become a 6th major shinobi village. No one wanted that. 6 was one number too many in Hiruzen's mind when it came to major villages. 5 village was the cutoff point and the Uzumaki clan had no business adding themselves or even trying to add themselves into the mix. It was time for Konoha to cut its losses. They had Kyuubi, but needed a new vessel. The Uzumaki clan had the new vessel and the sealing ability to ensure the Biju was placed in the new vessel safely. The problem at hand was the Uzumaki clan would ensure the seal was designed to hold the Biju, but not unleash its power. Hiruzen frowned upon that last part and so did Jiraiya. The other villages weren't doing that, so why should they? It was one of the reasons Jiraiya was here. To not only secure Kushina, but see some of their work on Fuinjutsu so he could devise a way to alter the seal placed on Kushina in the future to unleash the Kyuubi's power on Iwa or Kumo. He knew the Uzumaki clan would frown at this since if they learned of his intentions toward what they considered to be the abuse of Fuinjutsu. Fortunately, for Konoha and Jiraiya anyway, they wouldn't have to deal with such moral annoyances anymore from the Uzumaki clan shortly after they left here with their prize. Garp-sama, your welcoming party is not what it once was, exclaimed Jiraiya happily to Garp in his usual, laid and carefree back-type manner. Normally, you would be right. But we are at war, Jiraiya. One cannot be too careful in these dark times, said Garp, since he would have been more welcoming of Jiraiya if not for the things he felt were off about the man being here. True, very true. I know we are being a pain in the ass being here, so I will make my visit short and to the point so we can get out of your red slightly graying hair, replied Jiraiya casually like he wasn't insulted. Yes, you are here for one of my kin to bring to Konoha for the transfer of Kyuubi. I still say you should have brought Mito here for this instead of Kushina coming with you to Konoha, said Garp angrily while Jiraiya shrugged. Too risky. My spy network told me a lot of shinobi activity from the other villages are being made throughout the different countries right now. Mito was Hashirama's wife and is still a prime target. Age notwithstanding, replied Jiraiya while Garp's eyes narrowed. She is an Uzumaki and we protect our own. Besides, Mito may be aged, but I suspect she could still whip your butt in a fight. Not to mention you got here safely enough with your own Anbu without trouble. Why would it be any different if Mito was here with you now? Challenged Garp while Jiraiya looked sheepish. Well, I hadn't thought of that. Still, it is better to be safe than sorry as they say. Besides, Mito is much safer in Konoha right now with an entire village protecting her under the Sandaime Hokage's watch, replied Jiraiya with Garp narrowing his eyes further. I would sooner trust a fresh out of the academy made genin for an Uzumaki over that of an entire Anbu platoon from Konoha, thought Garp to himself before the man grunted and motioned for Jiraiya and his Anbu to follow him. All the while missing the narrowed eyes of an old man for an Uzumaki with a long beard sitting down with a walking staff watching them every step of the way. Uzu 3 days later. Are you sure this information is reliable? Asked a shinobi from Iwa while glancing at the Kumo Anbu captain leading this allied assault against Uzu. My sources say it is. Look, here is the entrance just like the spy said. Unguarded and the seals have been disabled. replied the Kumo Anbu while glancing at the Kiri and Suna shinobi with their group. This is too easy. Who gave your cage this information? Asked the Kiri shinobi since he wasn't so sure this plan would go off without a hitch. You wouldn't believe me, even if I told you. In some ways, I don't think you even want to know, replied the Kumo Anbu since he didn't want to believe it either. I find it hard to believe the Uzumaki clan would be so lax in their security or that one of their own would betray them, remarked a Suna shinobi with a scar running from his eye going down diagonally past his nose and to the lip. I never said it was Uzu, remarked the Kumo Anbu cryptically while he along with the others moved silently through the tunnel that would take them into the heart of Uzu while the main force attacked from the outside. Before they could have this silent conversation even further, the ground beneath them had suddenly begun glowing with seals before the entire allied ninja squad was impaled with earth spikes. Some managed to get out of the way in time by using chakra to press against the ceiling, but they were soon fried when seals appeared, and hit with an intense blast of lightning that turned the bodies to ashes. What remained of those who survived that were trying to retreat from where they entered, only to find the way blocked, and a new wall appeared at their back. Following that, more seals appeared all around them. In the now smaller area these allied shinobi were contained in began to quickly fill with the water being filled with piranhas. Naturally, there were no survivors. Walls of Uzu at the moment. Bodies lay everywhere. A lot of bodies. Shinobi from Kiri, Suna, Kumo, and Iwa were all on the ground. Dead. Well, dead or quickly dying. They had been told an infiltration team would help in a pincer movement that would allow them to take down Uzu on two fronts. How the seals on the walls connected to traps and early warning detection had been disabled a few days earlier without the Uzumaki clan noticing. How that happened, they didn't really know, or maybe deep down for the smarter than average shinobi of this allied force, they didn't want to know. The point was, they had basically been assured a guaranteed victory, and were eager to take it. Only to find their eagerness in believing in an assured thing, even from their own cages when given this assignment would ultimately be their undoing. How could this have happened? How could we have lost? Were we betrayed by our own cages? Did they really turn on us? Or did one of them betray the other to the Uzumaki clan without even realizing it? Thought a dying Junin from Suna while crawling away from the bodies around him and trying to escape in a futile attempt to report back to the cage of their staggering loss. Only to get a sword go through his neck and out of his throat. Reduce all creation into ash. Ryujin Jaka, said an elderly voice before the body on the ground and those around him were consumed in flames. And only the person causing the flames was the one walking out of it unscathed. Konoha 1 week later. You assured me the seals were disabled, Jiraiya. You and your entire team I sent to get Kushina were ordered to disable the seals around Uzu without anyone knowing the truth. The mission was a success, sensei. Those were your words, Jiraiya, when I asked about it, stated Hiruzen angrily at Jiraiya while Orochimaru was in the room along with Homura, Kaharu, and Danzo with displeased looks on their faces. I did. I made sure of it. Besides, if you want to pass along blame here, why not blame the Teme? He was the one who suggested the secret tunnel I used to get into Uzu when I was there for the enemy to enter undetected when the Allied army attacked. Protested Jiraiya while pointing at Orochimaru, who frowned since he did come up with the idea, and the plan to perform the pincer movement accordingly. And it would have worked too, provided Jiraiya's end of things went smoothly. Which it didn't. My end would have worked had you done your job, Baka. Now the Uzumaki clan are getting suspicious of us. They sent a letter demanding how the enemy not only knew of the tunnel used, but why some of their seals were noticeably damaged if not disabled. Not to mention the damage they saw was fresh and looked like it was days old when they began repairing it. The fact you were on Uzu the day such a thing happened to their seals makes us all look like traitors to allies, replied Orochimaru with narrowed serpent eyes. Considering what we did or at least tried doing to the Uzumaki clan, isn't it true? Asked Jiraiya with Hiruzen and the others frowning at him. That's not the point, Jiraiya. With the Uzumaki clan scattered, no one would have been able to piece it all together on their end. We could have easily picked up the survivors to bring them to us and be reorganized as a clan of this village we easily could control. At least regarding the usage of one of them to hold the Kyuubi. We could also learn how to use Fuinjutsu on a level like them and they are not needed so much, said Hiruzen while glaring at his student. Yeah, well, it didn't work out, but it wasn't my fault. I was careful. So was the Anbu team with me. Though maybe if the members of Root weren't part of it, the Uzumaki clan wouldn't have been none the wiser, commented Jiraiya with Danzo frowning. And what does Root have to do with your own incompetence? Asked Danzo with a frown. I don't know, maybe the fact those trained in your program have the emotional stability of a wet dishcloth. The Uzumaki clan have a lot of skilled sensors, who can sense the emotions of people. Mito was one of them, remember? The ones in Uzu no doubt sensed how emotionless some of the Anbu in my escort were with me and made it known to Uzumaki Garp. Chances are he had some members of the clan snoop around where they went and saw the damage done before repairing it, replied Jiraiya with Danzo frowning further. Emotions people possess are a weakness, Jiraiya. My Root shinobi did their job per the instructions given to them. I highly doubt they're the reasons for your failure, countered Danzo with Jiraiya frowning at him. One day you are going to die an old man. Old and alone, remarked Jiraiya with Danzo not even twitching at the supposed insult. Considering how you live or intend to live in the future, Jiraiya, I expect to outlive you, countered Danzo with Jiraiya smirking. Fine by me. The world by that point would probably suck anyway, Jiraiya shot back. Enough, both of you. We need to figure out how to stop this from making us look like we betrayed our own allies. Thoughts? Questioned Hiruzen while the room went into silence once more for a time. They can't actually prove Jiraiya and his team damaged the seals after all the fighting that occurred, sensei. For all they know, the seals were damaged during the attempt to invade Uzu. Not Jiraiya, said Orochimaru while Hiruzen nodded. And the secret entrance? Asked Hiruzen, since that was another issue. We say the enemy found it while searching for a way to get into Uzu from behind while the main force obviously attacked from the front. They foolishly entered a well-hidden entrance made to be a secret trap and died because of it. Not our fault the enemy found the damn place and entered believing it was unguarded in some shape or form, added Jiraiya with Hiruzen nodding in agreement there. The fact the Uzumaki clan would make such claims of us betraying them is an insult to Konoha and to you Hokage-sama, added Kaharu while knowing they could spin this in a way where the Uzumaki clan were coming off paranoid. Even if the clan was actually correct. Even still, accusations still have a way of clinging to things. Not unlike a bad stench on clothing. You can scrub and clean the clothing all you want, but the bad stench will still remain. If only in memory, remarked Homura while making sure they understood this accusation made by the Uzumaki clan would not go away so easily no matter how hard Konoha tried to spin it. I get it. We're going to look like the bad guys here for a while until this mess blows over. Big deal. We have Kushina. Mito will be ready to transfer the Kyuubi into her soon, and that will be the end of it. I'm already coming up with ideas for different seals we could create for future Jinchuriki beyond Kushina so we have our future weapon once it's time for her to pass on the fox to another one. Hopefully an Uzumaki born here. That way we can have undisputed claim to the child should Uzu get involved again, replied Jiraiya since he felt his mission was an overall success with a minor bump in the road regarding the continued existence of the Uzumaki clan. It's not that simple, Jiraiya, replied Hiruzen while Jiraiya frowned. What do you mean it's not that simple? Asked Jiraiya while Hiruzen sighed. The Uzumaki clan wasn't happy when they did their investigation on the issue. They're considering breaking off all ties to Konoha. That means taking back all of the members of the Uzumaki clan. Jinchuriki included, meaning we lose both Kushina and Kyuubi in one single stroke, explained Hiruzen while Jiraiya and the others looked angry. They can't. We need a Jinchuriki in Konoha. They can't take Mito or Kushina from us. Especially not now during a war, protested Jiraiya while Orochimaru sighing. Maybe not now, Jiraiya, but most likely after the war is over. Mito will most likely die prior to the end of the war or shortly after, depending on how much longer this will last. Depending on the aftermath of the war, Kushina may be recalled back to Uzu where she can continue to be an Uzumaki on their terms, and not ours like we first intended, said Orochimaru, knowing the Uzumaki clan would wait until the war was resolved and take back what was theirs. Fortunately, it may not come to that. Uzumaki Garp added in his letter that he is willing with great reluctance to let this suspicion slide if we allow another one of their older members live in Konoha. A precautionary measure, he says, and went on further to claim that refusing this now would only give the Uzumaki clan more reason to take both Mito and Kushina back to Uzu. Not to mention everything that the Uzumaki clan placed here to help build Konoha with Hashirama, said Hiruzen while this made the others in the room scowl angrily. So it's basically an ultimatum and not a request. Let the Uzumaki come to Konoha or they take everything the Uzumaki clan gave us to make Konoha and leave us to fend for ourselves, remarked Jiraiya with Hiruzen nodding since that was exactly what it was. Ridiculous. What right do those islanders have to issue this demand to us? Konoha, the strongest of the 5 shinobi villages, exclaimed Koharu angrily. To be fair, Koharu-san, we would have made the exact same demand if the roles were reversed, said Jiraiya with Danzo scowling. Irrelevant. Konoha is the only village that matters. Not Iwa, Suna, Kumo, Kiri, and most certainly not some island filled with Fuinjutsu users that call themselves a clan. I don't care if they are the cousin clan of the Senju. They are a constant threat and as such should be eliminated before they have a chance to do anything to us in return, said Danzo since he believed anything not born, made, or created in Konoha for him to control should either be destroyed or suppressed. Well, we can't now. They are most likely going to strengthen their defenses and keep their guard up around anyone sent to Uzu for any reason, commented Homura while the others were seething at how their plan was ruined. That aside, say we agree to let this Uzumaki clan member to join Konoha. What does he or she contribute to this and what is his name? Asked Jiraiya curiously while the Hokage just sighed rubbed his head. His name is Uzumaki Yamamoto. He is arguably the oldest Uzumaki clan member they have and also arguably the most powerful too, replied Hiruzen with Danzo, Orochimaru, Homura, and Koharu stiffening in fear. Uzumaki Yamamoto? As in the Uzumaki Yamamoto? But, he's supposed to be dead. Or rather, reported to be dead, exclaimed Koharu fearfully since she had seen the man in his younger years as a child and his power unleashed. Even Uchiha Madara's strength paled in comparison to that Uzumaki. In fact, Koharu suspected Madara and Hashirama working together couldn't have been enough to defeat that man. Yes, I thought so too, but apparently we were wrong to assume as much. Yamamoto is not only very much alive, but is considered stronger than before. He came back to Uzu sometime just before Jiraiya arrived for Kushina and has expressed an interest in seeing Konoha again, replied Hiruzen while the others in the room looked nervous. Wait, if this guy is the strongest Uzumaki in the clan right now, why isn't he the clan head instead of Garp? Asked Jiraiya since the strongest clan member should be ruling it. Because for one, they also assumed he was dead until a short time ago. And second, the man didn't want to lead the clan after coming back. Rather, he has been consulting Garp at times since his return. I suspect Yamamoto-sama has the same distrust for us as Garp now does, replied Hiruzen while the others in the room winced. So he's that powerful? Asked Jiraiya with Orochimaru hissing at his teammate. Honestly, Jiraiya, where were you when they were teaching our class history at the Ninja Academy? Any shinobi worth their headband knows of Uzumaki Yamamoto. It was said the man could literally personify the will of fire that Hashirama preached about. He was given the nickname, Uzu's Fire, for a reason. Not even Madara or Hashirama could hope to match him in battle either separately or together, said Orochimaru while Jiraiya now looking a bit nervous when hearing this. Madara and Hashirama were considered the pride of Konoha despite how the former went insane and leaving. For anyone to remotely surpass either of them was truly a monstrous individual. Which is all the more reason we can't say no. Besides, Kushina already has some kind of connection to him. If we refuse to let Yamamoto come to Konoha, it might incite the man to take drastic measures to get the point across that saying no isn't an option. At this stage of the war, saying no to such a person is most unwise. No matter how much I want to say no, replied Hiruzen with the others in the room not liking this one bit. When is he expected here? Asked Danzo so he could put some rude anbu on the man for surveillance purposes. Tomorrow morning, answered Hiruzen while seeing Danzo's frown increase. Tomorrow morning? So soon? Questioned Orochimaru since he found this to be usual given how the letter was only received today. Like I said, Yamamoto has little love for Konoha. No doubt he wants to get here quickly enough in order to make sure Kushina isn't corrupted by our village, explained Hiruzen while Homura and Koharu frowned. He should be given restricted movement throughout Konoha, remarked Koharu while Homura nodded. And if I issued that command to him, who here is going to help me enforce it? Will you, Koharu? What about you, Homura? Danzo? Orochimaru, are you interested in enforcing such a command and making Yamamoto see things our way through the use of force? Questioned Hiruzen while everyone in the room kept their mouths shut. So nice to know everyone in this room is a coward like me when it comes to this guy, thought Jiraiya while keeping his mouth shut on the matter. We will figure out how to deal with Yamamoto-sama when he arrives tomorrow. In the meantime, we need to focus on the academy, and where to place Kushina in it. Tsunade is currently with her right now and unknowingly helping us get the girl on our side like I originally hoped, said Hiruzen with Jiraiya running a hand against his chin. I have been keeping an eye on the academy for a while now. I think we should put her in the class with those of her age group. There are quite a few clan heirs in one of them if I am recalling this year's starting class correctly, right? Put Kushina in the same class with them. Offered Jiraiya with Homura and Koharu looking at him like he just said that all Jinchuriki should be loved if not respected for their burdens. What, with the clan heirs? With Kushina? Questioned Homura since he felt such a thing shouldn't happen simply because the girl was going to be Konoha's future Jinchuriki and weapon. Why not? We need Kushina to like Konoha in order to stay here in the future, right? Not to mention she is from a clan. Maybe not a clan heir, but still from an important clan in connection to the Senju. Plus, we need her to interact with the kids her age so she wants to actually stay in Konoha because of them when they all grow up. She enrolls in the academy, makes friends with those in the class, and grows up as a ninja of Konoha while we keep her status as a Jinchuriki under wraps. At least for the moment anyway. When the time is right, we let it slip out, or create a scenario where she unleashes a good chunk of the Biju's chakra despite the seal used to contain it. Even if Mito does give Kushina a similar seal to her own, I can always alter it in the future to change the purpose of the seal while under the pretenses of inspect and future research. By the time the village tries to isolate Kushina due to her status as a Jinchuriki, we make it seem like we care, and she will want to keep what few friends she has left here no matter what. Explained Jiraiya with Hiruzen nodding at the idea. There is just one problem regarding the altering of the seal, Jiraiya. Yamamoto-sama is a master Fuinjutsu user. What makes you think he will even let you get within 3 feet of Kushina to inspect her seal? Much less alter it to your specifications? Questioned Danzo while Jiraiya just shrugged. Easy. Time. Sensei said it himself. He's an old man. Sure, Yamamoto is strong for his age, but he won't live forever. Chances are he'll die sometime within the next 5 years of old age. We just pretend to be on our best behavior until that time, and after the old geezer kicks the bucket, we lure Kushina into our confidence, and make up some reason for me to see her seal, replied Jiraiya while Hiruzen once again nodding at the idea. Good idea. I'll arrange for Kushina to be in the academy class pertaining to her age. She has some ninja training, so I imagine there is no real risk of her being behind them when starting out at the academy, added Hiruzen while knowing this would be a good chance to influence Kushina despite possible interference from Mito and Yamamoto. Konoha the next day. Uzumaki Yamamoto huffed at the sight of Konoha. His eyes gazing up at the site of the Hokage monument sporting the heads of Senju Hashirama and Tobirama. Both great in terms of being Hokage, but their personal choices in students and successor to being the Hokage left much to be desired. Sarutobi Hiruzen's own face was freshly placed on the monument not that long ago, but the sight of it made Yamamoto angry at what he learned in his past life as Uzumaki Naruto. To think he once admired that man for his courage and so-called honesty in doing what was right. Bah, the man was no more righteous than Danzo and barely more ethical than Orochimaru. At least he was honest about himself and didn't really hide what he was or felt about his personality to the world. They would get their second punishment for past and future sins soon enough. Welcome to Konoha once more, Yamamoto-sama. Do you want to rest for a bit? Such a long walk from Uzu must have been draining, offered Hiruzen diplomatically when he went to personally greet the by far older-looking man. And got a fist to the top of his skull via the far older man with a tick mark on his bald and scarred forehead. Impudent whelp, no manners whatsoever, implying I am too old to travel long distances and saying I should rest upon arriving in subtle words. Hashirama should have taught you better manners, brat, exclaimed Yamamoto while finding the perks of being the elder and strong at the same time was you could smack around just about anyone who made such a remark about your age. Subtle wording or not, Many of the Anbu assigned to guard the Hokage, and seeing this sweat dropped at the sight of their Hokage on the ground with a massive lump on his head. The impact crater his body made thanks to the force of the punch was deep and showed Yamamoto was indeed strong for his old age. Damn Uzumaki clan and their infamous temper. Now I see where Tsunade got hers from when growing up, thought Hiruzen while getting out of the crater, and saw Yamamoto was looking at him with unimpressed eyes. I expected more from you, Hiruzen. Already as the Hokage, and it's clearly made you soft in terms of taking a light hit. And to think it's only been a short time since Tobirama died in this war prior to naming you his successor. Perhaps Mito should have taken over and we wouldn't have to worry about such things, commented Yamamoto, and was mentally happy to see Hiruzen was clearly seething at the idea of Mito sitting in the Hokage seat over himself. Or any Uzumaki for that matter. No Uzumaki trash is going to sit in the Hokage seat. Not while I can make certain of it, thought Hiruzen while getting up from the ground. Now if you would escort me to Kushina and Mito, I would very much like to see my two precious kin, who have to undergo future hardship for the good of all, said Yamamoto, with Hiruzen fixing his robes and getting the dirt off of them. Yes, of course, but first, we need to go to the Hokage Tower to speak to councils and the clan heads about your position here in the village, replied Hiruzen while Yamamoto huffed in annoyance, but nodded all the same. Very well, but this meeting is to be kept short. I always find longer than usual meetings are unnecessary, said Yamamoto before walking ahead of Hiruzen, who glared at the older man's back, and moved to catch up with him. Long or short, Hiruzen had a feeling this meeting wasn't going to be pleasant for him in the slightest, like he first hoped. Hokage Tower. Welcome to Konoha after so many years, Yamamoto-sama, said Kaharu in a polite tone while seeing the man in the flesh after so long. Even now she could sense the power running through him and shivered mentally in fear. Indeed, it has been many years. Not since near the end of the First Shinobi War, added Homura while Yamamoto looked at the two with what could only be called discontent. And I can only assume my return from my presumed death shocks you greatly? Asked Yamamoto while narrowing his eyes at the nervous Shinobi Council members. Considering we all thought you were dead, it's not unreasonable, replied Danzo while he held all the politeness of dried flaky paint in his voice. Says the man who sees human emotions as a weakness. Your social skills leave much to be desired, Danzo, remarked Yamamoto with a huff, and saw Danzo scowl further. As do your own. It seems if you are going to insult someone of high standing like myself in Konoha, Danzo shot back. My apologizes. I simply find it hard to respect or be remotely polite to anyone who sees every person around him as an expendable tool to throw away when they are of no further use from a military standpoint. Yamamoto countered sharply and noticed Danzo was fighting back a sneer. Damn old fool. If it wasn't for the fact he could kill us all without any effort, I would kill him myself right now, thought Danzo while keeping his emotions under check. In any case, we are glad you are here, and have arranged for lodgings at an apartment complex in the South District of Konoha, said a civilian council member. An apartment? In the South District? Questioned Yamamoto, since he was familiar with it when he was still Uzumaki Naruto. The apartment was a shithole and in the heart of what was considered by many to be the red light district when he lived there in the future. Is that going to be a problem? Asked Hiruzen with Yamamoto narrowed his eyes. I would prefer to stay with both Mito and Kushina at the Senju clan home as guest of Tsunade. The Senju and Uzumaki clans are distant family after all, replied Yamamoto with Hiruzen looking nervous. Oh, well Kushina isn't. She isn't staying with Mito, said Hiruzen nervously while Yamamoto looked less than pleased. What? Asked Yamamoto sharply. I wanted to take Kushina in, Yamamoto-sama, but sensei said it wouldn't be a good idea. He has her staying in an apartment complex in the Southern District, added Tsunade, as she gave an apologetic look to her cousin and a glare to her sensei. What? Yelled Yamamoto angrily with his spiritual pressure covering the room, the entire tower, and well over half Konoha in a single instant. This power. I can't breathe, thought Hiruzen while grabbing onto the table in front of him and looking up at Yamamoto's angry eyes. You foolish and disrespectful whelp for a monkey. You dare put the future of my clan, which helped build this village, but is also the cousin clan of the Senju, in a lowly apartment complex? In the South District? We both know that area is at best a slum and at worst is the unofficial red light district of this village. You have no right to put Kushina in that area when there is a cousin like Tsunade ready to take her in the second she enters here. Even more so when Mito lives there as well and can help Kushina cope with the change in being in a different village. Exclaimed Yamamoto with his anger clear as day. Their actions toward Kushina now was basically a prototype trial run on how to control her that they eventually perfected in terms of using on her son after she died. Please, Yamamoto-sama, this can be corrected, pleaded Hiruzen before he felt even more pressure and heard several things in the room break because of it. You're damn right this will be correct. Kushina is moving into the Senju clan home to be with Mito and Tsunade. She will learn all there is to know about the Uzumaki clan while here when training to be a ninja of Konoha. Not only that, but should the Uzumaki clan need her back in Uzu, I will not allow anyone to impede her from going for any reason, and will kill anyone who tries. Stated Yamamoto while giving Hiruzen a challenge me at your own risk look. You can't. It's treason, protested Homura before his heart nearly stopped at the sight of Yamamoto's eyes focusing on him. Silence your tongue. This is not up for discussion, negotiation, or compromise between us. This is going to happen or I will kill everyone in this room sans Tsunade and let your children rule your clans and positions here in your place. Hopefully they will do a better job than the rest of you idiots. Exclaimed Yamamoto with many now fearing the wrath of this old yet still terrifying man before the pressure they felt left them. The only one in the room who was the least affected by it was Tsunade, but that was because Yamamoto wasn't focusing it on her. That won't be necessary, Yamamoto-sama. Kushina is more than welcome in the Senju clan home, wheezed Hiruzen while Yamamoto nodded slightly. Good, now if there is nothing else, I am going to see my kin, replied Yamamoto before he left the room and Tsunade getting up to follow him out. Such power. I've never felt anything like it. He is indeed just as strong if not stronger as the old tales my father told me, remarked Hyuga Hibachi, who was the father of both Hyuga Hiyashi and Hyuga Hizashi of the Hyuga clan. Indeed, it is most unwise to anger such a man capable of such strength, added Aburame Shina, who was the father of Aburame Shibi, and would be the grandfather of Aburame Shino in the future. That is not a man. It's a monster, exclaimed a civilian council member with a hysterical look in his eyes. A monster we have clearly provoked to the point where he is willing to kill us if we do not concede to his demands. Demands which are logically not unreasonable, said Shina calmly despite everything. The Uzumaki clan have always been one to flaunt their strength when they don't get their way. They should be wiped out from this world. We would have all been better off without them, stated the Uchiha clan head, who was Uchiha Fugaku's father. If you only knew, thought Hiruzen, since that plan was now lost for the moment. Regardless, we will have to be careful around Yamamoto-sama. The last thing we need to do is provoke him into doing something violent, offered the Nara clan head, who was Nara Shikaku's father. The last thing he or anyone else wanted to do was see Konoha being put in a troublesome situation or the angry path of Yamamoto or the Uzumaki clan in general. With Yamamoto, it's no wonder Kushina was blinded with love for Konoha. They practically force-fed her no alternative, thought Yamamoto while putting all the events so far through his mind. Giving Kushina nothing but the bare essentials to live in Konoha. Only seeing Mito on occasion and was basically the only member of the Uzumaki clan left after those in Uzu scattered. When Mito died, Kushina would be all alone with the exception being Tsunade herself, but the Senju could only do so much for her, and Yamamoto suspected Hiruzen had a hand in that. Claiming some form of favoritism among clans that couldn't be shown even if they were related in some manner. By leaving Kushina practically all alone within Konoha, Hiruzen was making sure that all of her friends and comrades were all for the village. Getting her to form bonds with people who were loyal to Konoha and get her to be loyal to the only place she believed was a good place to live. No doubt Hiruzen manipulated the events along with Danzo, Homura, and Kaharu to make the girl rely on Konoha on a subconscious level. Yamamoto was going to make sure that didn't happen, starting with having a long private conversation with Uzumaki Mito about his concerns regarding Konoha after making sure Kushina was safe within the Senju clan home. Yamamoto looked at Mito sitting on the cushy bed. She had indeed looked old and her body showed as much with the wrinkles. Her sharp eyes also still showed the fight in her, so that was some comfort. The woman was happy to see him and little Kushina. The poor girl was surprised to see him and would have made a crack about Yamamoto being old if not for the fact they were going to see Mito. In fact, Kushina was happy they were since she didn't understand why she couldn't stay with Mito from the start. Not that it mattered anymore since Yamamoto had taken care of the particular issue with the Hokage. "You are looking well all things considered," remarked Yamamoto with Mito smiling at him. "I'm not too old to be completely bedridden and I can still throw a mean punch when required," replied Mito with Yamamoto smiled at her and the fact she hadn't lost the infamous Uzumaki wit. Still, it was time to get serious. "How have things been since Hiruzen took over as Hokage?" asked Yamamoto with his smile gone and frown now on his bearded face. "Bad. Konoha's showing a very ugly side of itself. I fear it will only grow and get worse long after I'm dead," answered Mito with Yamamoto nodding. "You have no idea, Mito. I wish I could tell you the truth, but I fear what it would do to your heart," thought Yamamoto to himself. Friends of the Uzumaki clan are thinning among the populace. Civilian and shinobi alike who I have come to know since being here are dead, on long-term missions, or have left Konoha because they see what I do. It hurts to see this place become less friendly to my clan," added Mito with Yamamoto growling in anger and gripped his staff tightly. "You still have your clan and Uzu. You don't need to stay here for your twilight," offered Yamamoto with Mito smiling at him. "Thank you, but no thanks Yamamoto-sama. My place is here, with Tsunade, Kushina, and with you in the house my husband built." "The village we helped build," replied Mito, as she smiled slightly at the memory of Hashirama and his constant devotion to her. "When you die, I am having your body sent back to Uzu to be buried with honor." "You deserve that much," said Yamamoto with Mito looking slightly sad at hearing that. "Not with my husband," remarked Mito with her tone matching her face. "Under any other circumstances, I would agree that you should be buried here beside him, Mito. But in these dark times threatening our clan, I dare not think what would happen to your remains if left here with those with questionable ethics," replied Yamamoto with Mito flinching since she had an idea of who he was talking about. "You know something you're afraid to tell me. That you don't want Kushina or even Tsunade to hear just yet," deduced Mito with Yamamoto nodding. "Do you want to hear it?" asked Yamamoto with Mito slowly nodding. "I need to know," answered Mito with Yamamoto sighing. "Konoha had tried to betray our clan not that long ago following taking Kushina here. We were attacked by enemy shinobi from the other 4 villages allied together against us. They used a pincer movement with the main force attacking from the front and another team using one of the secret tunnels to launch a surprise attack from behind. Seals in key places for detection and activating traps in certain areas were disabled or destroyed prior to the attacks. The secret entrance into Uzu was the same one Jiraiya used to gain access to Uzu and few outside of our clan knew about it. In fact, the only ones in Konoha who do know of it are you, me, Kushina, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, Hiruzen, his teammates, Danzo, and the Anbu escort Jiraiya came with during his short stay," explained Yamamoto with Mito looking worried and fearful of her clan losing members from such an attack. "Any causalities?" asked Mito with Yamamoto shaking his head. "Not on our side. After I personally fixed, repaired, and enhanced all the seals myself, we used their arrogance against the enemy. We crushed them all in ruthless counterattack. No Uzumaki died that day," answered Yamamoto with conviction in his voice. "I believe you. But still, Hiruzen wouldn't betray my husband. Or Tobirama. Not the 2 senseis who taught him about the will of fire," replied Mito with Yamamoto shaking his head in disagreeing with her. "Even fire can be corrupted if the desire for power at any cost is strong enough. Hiruzen wants one thing and one thing only from our clan and not in a direct sense." "You know what I speak of," replied Yamamoto with Mito nodding. "Kyuubi. He wants the Biju sealed inside of me," said Mito since she knew the strongest of all the Biju was something Konoha coveted greatly. "And he planned to discreetly control Kushina not long after you died. Tsunade would be kept away from her and he could manipulate things where she sees Konoha as her second home. Without the Uzumaki clan to come back to, she would have had no say in terms of leaving here, and even less when the Kyuubi is sealed inside of her once fully transferred over from you," said Yamamoto with Mito letting out a painful sigh. "What does this mean for Konoha? For us? For the Uzumaki clan?" asked Mito with Yamamoto looking at her now with gentle eyes. "If you are referring to me unleashing my fury on the entire village and burning it to the ground, I have no intention doing such a drastic action, yet, replied Yamamoto with Mito smiling at him. You aren't immortal, Yamamoto-sama. You can't live forever. You can't defend me, Kushina, or anyone else from our clan forever, countered Mito with Yamamoto smiling at her. That may be true, but it doesn't mean I can't remove the various entities in Konoha that are a threat to our clan while I'm still alive. Yamamoto shot back with Mito looking at him with knowing eyes. Many would consider your words treasonous against Konoha from what you are secretly implying, said Mito with Yamamoto's eyes narrowing. Considering the betrayal done by Konoha toward our clan, it's more than justified. Turnabout is fair play, replied Yamamoto, since he knew it was only fair he counter Konoha's actions with his own. I don't want Konoha destroyed. I don't want my husband's village to be lost forever due to our desire for revenge, whispered Mito with Yamamoto nodding to her request. The spirit of Konoha will remain intact. It's those who would corrupt Hashirama's beliefs for their own crude ends that will die, said Yamamoto with Mito smiling at him again. You are not what you seem, Yamamoto-sama. I sensed as much from you when you let loose your power. There is a piece of the Shinigami inside of you, remarked Mito while she had sensed as much from him with her sensory abilities. And what does that tell you about me? Asked Yamamoto while keeping his eyes on her. That you are indeed Uzumaki Yamamoto and yet not Yamamoto at the same time. I have studied our connection to the deity well enough to know he did something to bring you back to this world, surmised Mito with Yamamoto slowly nodding in admission. Do you want to know the truth? The entire truth? Asked Yamamoto with Mito thinking it over in her mind. Tell me everything slowly and carefully. If I cut you off, it is because what you were about to tell me is something even I shouldn't know, or shouldn't be spoken for others to possibly hear, answered Mito with Yamamoto nodding. And slowly, he told her about a boy named Uzumaki Naruto. Told her of his horrible life in Konoha and how on the night he was born, his father was forced to turn him into the Kyuubi Jinchuriki that caused such a horrible life. How the boy struggled for everything he had, known nothing of his heritage, taught only the basics, and had crappy academy instructors who sabotaged him at every turn. Mito of course listened intently, cutting him off from certain points in the story since they didn't happen yet, and were outside of Konoha anyway. No point in knowing such things now before they happened when there was nothing they could do. Yamamoto went on to tell her how the boy was the only Uzumaki in Konoha and yet the history books of that time had no information about them. How the history of the clan was ultimately removed due to the clan being considered wiped out and therefore a pointless thing to learn by the higher up within Konoha. Yamamoto cut through most of his other life and cut to the chase about how Uzumaki Naruto eventually became strong, defeated his enemies, and had to deal with one final betrayal by Konoha in denying his right to be the Hokage due to a law the Sandaime Hokage had in place sometime during his first term as the village leader. And said law providing an opening to give it to the traitorous Uchiha, who had used his authority to take away anything else Naruto loved in life. How the boy used his power to save the Biju from being made into weapons of war and crush the corrupted Konoha the Uchiha had turned it into when he took the hat. Mito didn't like that part, but considering what this Uchiha had done, and making the other four villages ally together against them, even she knew Konoha of that time was beyond saving. And the Shinigami approached me to fix things so the same events wouldn't repeat twice this time around. Namely our clan being destroyed along with several other moments in time that need to be fixed. Uzu was just the main one and went on from there, finished Yamamoto with Mito closing her eyes and trying to take this all into her mind. I see. So not only were we betrayed by Konoha, but they went so far as to remove our very existence from the history books. As if we never existed, whispered Mito while Yamamoto nodded. One of the reasons I was sent back. I had to prevent such a moment from happening. It was considered the main catalyst to the events that followed. I intend to use my time in this world to fix other moments in time. Sadly, I have to wait until these events are about to happen before I can even intervene, added Yamamoto with Mito nodding. I understand. Do what needs to be done, Yamamoto-sama. The future of our clan and ultimately the world itself is in your hands, said Mito calmly while Yamamoto smirked at her. It wouldn't be the first time. I just need to live long enough to ensure my successor of sorts is born to continue on my work after I'm gone, replied Yamamoto before leaving the room. Konoha streets days later. Kushina puffed out her cheeks as she was being escorted to the academy by Yamamoto due to Tsunade being out on a mission with Jiraiya and Orochimaru. The Uzumaki girl didn't mind Yamamoto escorting her, but the fact was she preferred her cousin Tsunade to him. Tsunade was a strong, beautiful woman who could crush anyone who crossed her with a single punch. As for old man Yamamoto, he was, well, old. "Why do you have to walk with me to the academy, old man Yama?" asked Kushina, with Yamamoto sighing at her childish nature. Looking back, he clearly inherited it from his other lifetime. "Because you are one of 3 Uzumaki clan members here in Konoha. It is my duty to ensure you are watched over until strong enough to walk to the academy on your own," explained Yamamoto while he glanced around when walking and noticed some of the people were glaring at them discreetly. No doubt for being considered island foreigners from a clan outside of Konoha, and not ironically enough for being Jinchuriki. At least not yet anyway. Fortunately, Kushina did not seem to notice since she was busy puffing out her cheeks and staring up at him over his words. "I'm not weak, I'm plenty strong," protested Kushina childishly, which made Yamamoto chuckle a little despite everything. "I'm sure you are Kushina, but you are also still just a child. You still have to continue to learn until the time is right where you will become an adult," explained Yamamoto, with Kushina growling and let out a huff at his explanation. "Fine, I just hope my class is filled with strong people. That way, when I beat them all up, I'll be considered the strongest in my class," declared Kushina passionately with fire in her eyes. "I'm sure you will do just that, Kushina. Just be sure not to ostracize yourself when in the classroom. Making friends and comrades is crucial while learning at the academy," said Yamamoto, with Kushina nodding. "I know, old man Yama. But it won't be the same as back home," replied Kushina sadly, with Yamamoto letting out another chuckle. "Do not worry, Kushina. We can visit Uzu in the future when time permits. I have already spoken Mito and Tsunade about that. They also agree it would be beneficial to head back to Uzu so you can continue to learn from our clan and to keep the bonds there still alive," replied Yamamoto before stopping at the front of the academy gates and saw children were heading inside. "It feels weird being here. It's so different from Uzu. I'm not sure I will ever get used to it," whispered Kushina with a hint of worry while Yamamoto kneeled and put a hand on her shoulder. "I know what you mean, Kushina. Believe me when I say I do understand. You have left one home for another. You are unsure and afraid of this sudden change. It's natural. Just do not forget your heritage and where you come from. Do not forget your clan and the knowledge that we love you dearly. Mito, Garp, myself, and even Tsunade, since she has our blood running through her veins. We are family. The Uzumaki clan is your family now and forever. You are our pride and joy. This is your time to show everyone why that is the case," said Yamamoto, with Kushina crying a little and hugged him for his kind and caring words. Words she needed to hear. "See you after school, old man Yama," whispered Kushina before she kissed his cheek and ran off with a renewed fire in her eyes. "You did a wonderful thing for her, Yamamoto-sama," remarked a voice behind the old Uzumaki. "What are you doing here, Hiruzen? Shouldn't you be doing paperwork instead of spying on Kushina?" questioned Yamamoto in a cold tone. "I'm the Hokage of Konoha. I can go where I please in my village," countered Hiruzen calmly, though he was displeased Yamamoto spoke to Kushina since his plan involved him doing that in a way to keep the girl loyal to Konoha. "Almost anywhere you please. Clan homes are their own sovereignty," said Yamamoto, with Hiruzen frowning since he was right. "Only to a point. If the clan's actions are deemed a threat to the life of the village overall, I can intervene when needed, and make decisions which benefits everyone as a whole," replied Hiruzen while Yamamoto frowned. "If that were true, the Hyuga clan wouldn't be a divided home," countered Yamamoto and sensed Hiruzen's flinch. "That's a separate issue," replied Hiruzen while Yamamoto scoffed. "And how is it a separate issue? If someone from the clan went rogue, they could easily overpower the branch family, or teach others how to disable the branch family of the clan using the cage bird seal on their foreheads. Don't bother denying it. You know what I am speaking about is true," said Yamamoto, with Hiruzen frowning since he did know and didn't like others telling him what to do. "The Hyuga clan is loyal to Konoha. None of their members would dare betray it for any reason," countered Hiruzen while Yamamoto turned to look at him with cold eyes. "So long as the Hokage doesn't try to remove the cage bird seal and propose a new one be made that everyone in the clan can wear with pride over that of shame," Yamamoto shot back. "Be careful what you say, Yamamoto-sama. You will make more enemies here in Konoha than you can put down, warned Hiruzen while Yamamoto seemed completely unafraid by the hidden threat. My enemies are those who would seek the destruction or enslavement of the Uzumaki clan, replied Yamamoto before he began walking away from Hiruzen while giving the Sandaime Hokage a knowing. You are one of my enemies, look. He knows. Somehow he knows, thought Hiruzen with a hint of worry while watching the older man walk away from him. Are the preparations on your end made, Hiruzen? Asked Danzo, who appeared beside his rival currently deep in thought. Yes, I spoke to Jiraiya an hour ago. His spy network is ready to release the information to our enemies regarding the mission. It can't be traced back to us, answered Hiruzen after a second to remember what Danzo was referring to about the one mission he was interested in. Good, I have seen to it that Orochimaru will be in the village during that time for our given timetable. Provided our intended target is in place and all things are still kept on schedule, said Danzo in a cold tone. He will be Danzo. Him and his entire team are going to killed. For the good of Konoha naturally. Still, Tsunade will be upset over the loss, replied Hiruzen while Danzo scoffed at him. Senju or not, the boy is a tool just like Tsunade. All must be sacrificed for the good of Konoha, remarked Danzo while mentally adding, except myself, in that sentence. Careful Danzo. I might send you on an important mission where you don't come back, said Hiruzen while Danzo scowled further. Unlikely Hiruzen. Like you, I am a tool handler. A weapon user. We are immune from such things. We use, mold, and break tools or weapons how we see fit. Everyone around us are expendable assets for the greater good. The only difference between us, my friend, is I can admit my feelings on the matter, countered Danzo while Hiruzen turned to look at him. Unlike you Danzo, I at least try to show some form of respect to those who I have sent to their deaths. You do not. That is why I am the Hokage and you are not. Hiruzen shot back with Danzo snarling a bit at him. I still say Tobirama chose poorly, remarked Danzo while Hiruzen smirked. Considering it was the three of us that day, I think your opinion on the matter is rather biased, countered Hiruzen before walking away. With Yamamoto 1 week later. Yamamoto was sitting in a local bar, drinking some soothing tea when he saw the boy enter with his team. He could actually see why Tsunade thought his old self looked like her little brother. The similarities were indeed so close you would think the boy and one Uzumaki Naruto were actually brothers if they were both together in the same room around the same age. Senju Nawaki had the same shapely face Uzumaki Naruto had at that age and even the same personality when he was with his team from what Yamamoto saw during his observations of the boy. The old man actually thought for a moment his future self had actually been born ahead of schedule, but shut that thought down soon after. He also realized this was indeed a very rare and golden opportunity for him to stick it once more to Hiruzen along with the other higher-ups supporting the Hokage's less than favorable actions. It was clear to the old-looking Uzumaki ever since learning the truth about how his clan fell the first time around that the Sandaime had done other things following it that were morally unethical. The Uzumaki clan's demise was just the main one that started a long line of dominoes falling down one after the other that allowed Konoha and Konoha alone or rather the higher up within it to benefit from such actions while everyone else got the shaft. Over time, Hiruzen did things where he, Danzo, Kaharu, and Homura benefited while others lower got the shaft. Namely Jiraiya and Orochimaru, with the former being too damn loyal to fight back and the other going rogue to plot revenge under the disguise of his mentor, discovering the unethical experiments he, hypocritically, supported. At this moment, Yamamoto knew Senju Nawaki's death was the next domino Hiruzen was trying to knock down. Yamamoto had learned all about the boy's death when he was a full-grown Uzumaki Naruto and how Nawaki was killed the day after his birthday. A birthday Yamamoto knew was yesterday because he had been there to give the boy a beginner's guidebook on Fuinjutsu and saw Tsunade give the boy the cursed necklace. The very same one Tsunade believed was responsible in the future for the boy's death along with her future lover Dan after she had given it to the man. Yamamoto made a mental note to intervene when that happened too. I can't believe I had to go out on a mission later today. I just turned 12 yesterday, exclaimed Nawaki after his friends left and sat down in front of Yamamoto to air his own grievance on the issue. I know. It was the same for me too on several occasions when I was young lad. Still, it just shows you the responsibilities ninja like us must take on regardless of the special events of our lives. Your enemies will not care if your birthday was today, yesterday, or even tomorrow for that matter. They will only wish to see you dead and your loved ones suffer for it. Namely your sister and your grandmother, replied Yamamoto with Nawaki sighing. Yeah, I guess you are right Yamamoto-sama. At least the mission is supposed to be easy from what the Hokage said. A quick snatch and grab of documents vital to Konoha and the war ending sooner, said Nawaki while having heard of Yamamoto in the past and seen how he acted with others in Konoha. The man was not one to be disrespected and Nawaki had no intention of doing that. Never assume anything Nawaki. I had several, easy missions, assigned to me when I was a few years older than you. They turned out far more complicated and dangerous than my team thought. Always be aware of your surroundings and always treat a mission outside these walls seriously regardless of the rank. Your C-ranked mission can easily turn into an A if not S-ranked mission. Especially during times of war, explained Yamamoto before flicking the boy in the forehead with his index and middle finger. Ow, okay, I get it. No need to be mean old man Yama, whined Nawaki with Yamamoto smirking at him. If I wanted to be mean little Nawaki, I would tell your sister you were in the hot springs earlier peeping on women out of not so innocent curiosity, remarked Yamamoto with Nawaki going pale at the idea of his sister knowing that. Okay, point taken. No need to get big sis involved. She's been training to use some kind of super strength technique Grandma Mito knows. I don't want to be her punching bag or living test dummy. Pleaded Nawaki knowing his sister would beat the future pervert in him right out. Good lad. Now hurry and go meet your team. And be mindful of what I said about your surroundings, commanded Yamamoto with Nawaki nodding and heading off to take care of his mission. After the boy left the bar, Yamamoto frowned knowing simple words of wisdom would not be enough to ensure Nawaki would come back to Konoha alive, and in one piece. If he truly wanted to ensure the future of the Senju clan and mental stability of Tsunade staying Konoha. It was better for Konoha overall with her in Konoha instead of drinking and gambling for years on end outside of the village with her skills lessening with each passing day. He would have to do something discreetly to prevent the boy's death and the death of Tsunade's lover to keep Shizune here as well. Nawaki sometime later. The boy was terrified. He had every right to be terrified. Senju Nawaki just had a near-death experience with a trap set to kill him and his team on this seemingly simple mission to retrieve documents. First, the documents themselves aren't even real, but fake. Second, his team is ambushed by 7 Iwa Nin intent on thinning out the Senju bloodline. And finally third, Nawaki was barely able to escape the explosive trap meant for them should things get that far. Had he not listened to Yamamoto's advice, Nawaki knew he would be dead right now, and unable to be recognized except with the necklace Tsunade gave him. But his luck and the luck of his team won out. Even more so when all 7 Iwa Nin had been struck down soon after the surprise appearance of Uzumaki Yamamoto. The old man had his sword already drawn and without hesitation or mercy, he killed his enemies like they were nothing, and sheathed his weapon before giving Nawaki a once-over. Before smashing the boy into the ground with his fist. Didn't you listen to what I said earlier? Honestly, if I had been 1 minute late getting here, you would be dead. Or maybe severely injured with a near-to-fatal injury. Of course maybe it would have made you realize your surroundings are crucial when on a mission. Exclaimed Yamamoto angrily while inwardly happy the boy and his team made it out in one piece. A little banged up, but still alive with fully functioning limbs and other body parts. Ow, we did. That trap back there would have killed us if I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. Like you mentioned earlier, remarked Nawaki while holding his head after the hit by Yamamoto. Had you paid full attention to your surroundings, you would have sensed the 7 Iwa Nin that were in waiting for the trap they set to be sprung. If so, you would have realized sooner this was clearly a trap, and would have retreated before calling in reinforcements to let more experienced shinobi intervene. Countered Yamamoto with another one of his fists hitting Nawaki's head. Ow, stop doing that, I'm sorry, I really am, pleaded Nawaki while Yamamoto sighed at the boy's antics. As you should be Nawaki. Few can ever say they survived near-death experiences as a shinobi. Even fewer from one so young as yourself during a time of war. Let's get you and your team home. The Hokage must be told and to double the patrols around Fire Country to ensure this doesn't happen so often, replied Yamamoto with him escorting the young team back to Konoha. And away from the secret pile of 15 bodies consisting of Konoha's rude Anbu. all of whom Danzo assigned to kill the 7 Iwa Nin before bringing Nawaki's dead body back to Konoha for the genetic material extraction. Hokage Tower sometime later. While I am glad young Nawaki is safe, you had no business being out of Konoha and interfering in this mission, exclaimed Hiruzen while glaring at Yamamoto, who looked like he didn't give a damn, and looked back at the Hokage with lazy eyes. And you should screen your missions better, Hiruzen. The mission was clearly a trap of sorts made to kill the boy and his team if possible. The Senju clan bloodline cannot in any way afford to be thinned out any further in this time of war, replied Yamamoto in a semi-lecturing tone. And how do you figure that? Asked Hiruzen with his frown turning into a scowl. The 7 Iwa Nin who set it up made to strike Nawaki first. The use of the explosive trap was designed to kill the one among Nawaki's team who took point. Namely him. No one else was attacked by those Iwa Nin more than Nawaki was during the ambush. The others were hit with disabling attacks and jutsus, but nothing truly lethal. The same could not be said for my distant cousin. Had I not intervened when I did, you would have lost a member of the Senju clan, and leaving Tsunade as the only one truly capable of bringing it back to its former glory, stated Yamamoto with his eyes narrowing at Hiruzen. All the same, don't do it again, Yamamoto-sama. Tsunade and Mito maybe have your gratitude for such an act, but I don't. I will not have people in my village go out and do such things without going through proper channels. Namely me, stated Hiruzen while Yamamoto stood up from his chair and looked down at the Hokage. This may be your village now that you are its Hokage. But make no mistake, Hiruzen, I will do what I must to protect my clan, and my cousin clan from total annihilation. If you or anyone else stands in my way should something like this happen again, I will burn this village to the ground, and relocate the survivors worthy of being spared my wrath back to Uzu. Do not test me on this, Yamamoto shot back before leaving the man's office. The moment he did, the Sandaime Hokage slammed his fist on his desk. Damn him, he ruined everything. Orochimaru doesn't have the genetic material needed to begin his experiments in transferring strong bloodlines to others who don't have them. I suppose I could have one of the doctors at the hospital get some of it from him or even Tsunade if we're that desperate. But they will need an excuse for such an extraction, and Orochimaru isn't one to be denied for long. Especially when something stands between him and his goals to further scientific progress, thought Hiruzen while hoping his former student would get the result they were all hoping for and thus pass on the Senju's ever infamous as well as rare Mokuton bloodline. Namely to Hiruzen himself should the results show promise. It was no secret human beings can be envious and jealous of other human beings who wield incredible power. Even if that power was one of genetic design and not one forged from hard work. Such people made other people feel jealous. Hiruzen was no exception to this, as he was jealous of Hashirama, and even Tobirama to some extent in the mastery of their elements. More so with Hashirama than Tobirama, since the former could do what no others even within the Senju clan were able to do. The Mokuton, the very ability to summon trees and wood-based jutsus, not to mention the subduing of the Biju with ease. Kami, it was practically screaming at Hiruzen to take and call his own. The power to control other forms of power. To be like a god. Hiruzen wanted it. He really wanted it. Hence why Orochimaru was put in charge of the secret project. If anyone could figure it out and get results, it would be his prodigal student. Tsunade would never consent to such a thing due on her family being, secretly, used for it. Not to mention she was going into the medical field over the scientific one. And while the two occasionally intertwined on some level, Hiruzen knew that Tsunade would not go along with such an idea. Even from a medical standpoint, due to the ethics involved with most people dying painfully from the body rejecting the bloodlines inserted into them. Jiraiya couldn't do it simply because that wasn't the man's field of expertise, and Spy Master was more into peeping on beautiful women in the hot springs for his research, than finding ways to transfer bloodlines over to others. Not to mention the man had the attention span of a fish the moment a woman with a nice figure walked into the room, and Hiruzen knew Jiraiya would practically demand an all-female staff to help him, if he was remotely interested in such things. My root team I sent to retrieve the Senju brat's body were killed, commented Danzo from the shadows with a frown on his face. He's onto us. I don't know how, but Yamamoto is onto us, replied Hiruzen with a frown on his face. We should remove him immediately. He's a threat to Konoha and our future prosperity, said Danzo firmly with conviction in his voice. Agreed, but not now. Not until after Kushina has the Kyuubi transferred into her. Any sooner and we risk all three leaving for Uzu and the Uzumaki clan closing itself off with the most powerful of all the Biju in their village, replied Hiruzen while Danzo scowled knowing full well the Hokage was right. I have been having some rude Anbu watching him since he arrived here in Konoha to oversee things regarding the transfer from Mito to Kushina. So far, he hasn't met with anyone privy to our plans for being the dominate power among the 5 shinobi villages, said Danzo while Hiruzen frowned. And yet he knew about our plan for having Nawaki killed. That the mission the boy was sent on was in fact a trap. One we allowed to unfold and secretly help along, commented Hiruzen while Danzo was puzzled by this too. A puzzle to be sure, added Danzo with Hiruzen not liking this one bit. Just keep an eye on Yamamoto for the time being, Danzo. The real issue with getting the genetic materials from our prime candidate is only a minor setback at most in this case. We can always spring another trap on Nawaki in the future or use another discreet means of getting what we want from him. It won't be easy, but the things we want in life are, for the most part, usually hard to obtain, commanded Hiruzen while Danzo nodded and left via the shadows of the room. Uzumaki Mito's room. You saved my grandson. Thank you, Yamamoto-sama. I don't think I could take such a loss at this point in my life, remarked Mito while Yamamoto nodded since he knew she loved her grandchildren and wanted to see them reach their full potential. It was an honor, Mito-sama. The boy has spirit and should be allowed to grow as such with it intact in the years to come, replied Yamamoto before his demeanor became more serious. And yet that is not everything you wish to tell me regarding this matter, added Mito in a serious tone since she sensed his emotions become more negative. I encountered poisonous roots lying in wait, Mito-sama. They were waiting for the boy to be killed, whispered Yamamoto with Mito frowning. They wouldn't dare try that. Even Danzo and Hiruzen wouldn't stoop so low as to kill the grandson of their 2 senseis, countered Mito while Yamamoto shook his head. When it comes to the quest for power, personal ties have little strength against greed and ambition for obtaining desired goals, Yamamoto shot back. I see. I'll speak to Nawaki and ensure his training regiment is increased. The same with Tsunade. I won't have this happen again while I'm still alive, remarked Mito while she saw Yamamoto looking at her with sad eyes. I'm sorry to say this to you, Mito-sama, but given how I stopped this moment in time from happening, chances are they will wait just that long before trying again. My only advice to you is to keep on living. The longer you live, the greater the chance of Nawaki and Tsunade getting strong enough to hold off against such an attempt in the future, said Yamamoto with Mito nodding. I need you to do something for me after I die. It involves the Uzumaki shrine. The one holding the masks connected to the Shinigami, replied Mito before she told him what to do, and Yamamoto nodded since he could make the arrangements with Garp easily. The last thing they wanted to do was leave such powerful items in the hands of people who betray their closest friends for power. Konoha meeting room several years later. We need these medic nins out in the field, Hokage-sama. Instead of a standard 3 nin team, the teams themselves should be reorganized to have 4 nins per team. If not that, then at least one of the 3 should be a medic nin. Think about all the lives we would save and lower the fatality rate, exclaimed Tsunade while she saw Hiruzen in front of her with Hokage and Homura on either side of him. Not far from her was one Uzumaki Yamamoto, who glanced at her from his position as the Uzumaki clan representative now that Mito had died of old age. She of course had successfully transferred the Kyuubi to Kushina in secret and under the watchful eyes of the oldest Uzumaki in history. Kushina was devastated in hearing what she would have to become since she heard the stories of how other Jinchuriki from the 4 shinobi villages were mistreated when they weren't being used like weapons. How they were all shunned by their villages and some of the people from within even tried to kill them for it. Yamamoto and Mito had been there to comfort the girl, telling her it was all right to be upset, and not to worry since she still had the Uzumaki clan in Uzu. Not to mention she still had Tsunade and Nawaki from their cousin clan. Thankfully, no one except a rare few outside of the clan know the truth. In fact, aside from myself, Tsunade, and Nawaki, only the 3 people in front of us, Danzo, and Jiraiya know the truth. Orochimaru might have been told by Hiruzen as premeditated warning should the snake get into a fight with her in the future. Of course that is me being optimistic here. Danzo more than likely told his most trusted of root nin about Kushina, and I wouldn't put it past Homura or Kaharu to blurt it out to some people they knew would keep it a secret yet still hate Kushina all the same. Slowly planting seeds of distrust and dislike among the higher-ups to make things difficult for the Uzumaki clan when we ask for Kushina to come back to Uzu for visits, thought Yamamoto while he gave Tsunade a supportive nod to her idea. We can't right now, Tsunade. We are still fighting a war with Iwa and Kumo. Kiri may have backed off for now and Suna is considering a ceasefire altogether in light of the political climate within Wind Country changing. But the fact remains we don't have the time or financial means to fund such a project. We have no way to properly train medic nins for the field or configure them into deployment after we did. When the war is over, then the option to fund the project will be considered reopened, and we'll proceed with it when the time is right. Not beforehand, replied Hiruzen while Tsunade looked angry and shocked the Hokage that was her sensei would say no to this idea. I support her motion, Hokage-sama. With such medic nins in the field, we can easily keep the fatality rates down. As for funding, I'm sure if we asked for donations from the people, and the clans living here, they would donate the funds, added Kato Dan, who was sitting next to Tsunade before giving her a smile. The two had met 2 months ago thanks to Yamamoto. They had hit it off well when they both learned of the other's passion medicine and wanting to use such knowledge to further benefit the village. To bring fatality rates down while doing the opposite for the vitality rate of shinobi during the war or on high-ranked missions. Dan had lost his sister and Tsunade almost lost Nawaki, so their talks about past moments surrounding death or near-death experiences were surprisingly good icebreakers. In fact, the two were now greatly considering seeing each other on a romantic level. And man was it slowly pissing Jiraiya off something fierce. The Hokage's answer is no. Funding aside, this war is not giving us time to train medic nins for the field, and an attempt now would risk losing such skilled shinobi at the hands of the enemy, said Homura in a stern authoritative tone. Furthermore, the medic nins are meant to be kept behind enemy lines, and away from the battlefield. If they were caught or captured, the enemy village could ultimately try to get key pieces of information out of them by torture and interrogation. They will become the weak link in the team and thus the plan itself to involve them in shinobi teams is a flawed one, stated Kaharu while Tsunade grit her teeth in anger while the meeting soon ended and everyone was leaving. Bastards. They see this more in terms of face value in the short term over the long one. If medic nins are well trained, they wouldn't be the weak link. They just don't want to take the time and effort to make this program a reality. Stated Tsunade angrily while the man beside her known as Kato Dan smiled at the woman. I agree with you, Tsunade. It is unfair that the Hokage and his advisors shot down your idea for adding a medic nin to shinobi teams. I bet Kumo and Iwa would be throwing a small party if they found out about the Hokage's foolishness, said Dan while joking at the end. I'll petition my idea again and again until Sensei finally sees things my way, whispered Tsunade while Yamamoto walked over to them. Your former sensei is a stubborn man, Tsunade. Do not be surprised if he keeps saying no even after the end of the war. To him and the others, such an idea requires a great deal of time and money. All of which Konoha does not want to waste on what they consider to be wasteful ideas, remarked Yamamoto with Tsunade grumbling. I bet Sensei would have taken my idea into account if Orochimaru was in that room and the one who proposed it to him, remarked Tsunade angrily knowing Orochimaru pushed for a lot of top secret, and also expensive, projects through with Hiruzen listening to all of them with interest. Regardless, I am sure your medic nin program you want can find itself useful in other places outside of Konoha, replied Yamamoto with a knowing smile. You mean, in Uzu? Sure it would, but wait. Wouldn't your offer to have it be used by the Uzumaki clan be considered treason? Asked Tsunade with uncertainty. No. For one, the Hokage turned down the proposal. As such, the offer is open to anyone who wants to see it come to fruition. If Konoha won't use your program to save lives and decrease fatality rates, the Uzumaki clan will in their place. Besides, the Uzumaki clan is your cousin clan. If the Hokage makes his grievances known, you can always tell him it was a gift between two related clans. Remember, the man had his chance to get in on the ground floor of this medic nin program and said no, replied Yamamoto with Tsunade thinking it over before looking at Dan. What do you think, Dan? asked Tsunade with Dan think it over in his mind. It's really up to you, Tsunade. One way or another, I think your idea should be realized. Whether by Konoha or Uzu. It is ultimately your choice. But I will support the decision all the same, replied Dan with the man seeing Tsunade smiling at her. Can you pitch the program to Garp-sama back in Uzu for me, Yamamoto-sama? I can make sure a copy of my idea and how it would work can be sent with the message, offered Tsunade with Yamamoto nodding. Of course, the man is smart enough to see potential new things when they are staring him in the face, and this medic nin idea of yours is not something he will ignore, said Yamamoto, knowing Garp will no doubt embrace this program and get to work on making it a part of their ninja clan policy. I thought as much. Grandmother Mito always spoke highly of him. I was a bit surprised Hiruzen was fighting Garp-sama on the right to bury Mito in Uzu when the time came to discuss where she would be laid to rest, replied Tsunade while the three walked side by side with each other down the streets of Konoha. It is a clan tradition that those of our clan who die, regardless of how it happened, be buried back in Uzu with fellow clan members. Mito may have married Hashirama, but her blood is still, and always will be that of an Uzumaki. Hiruzen had no right to deny my clan Mito's body, remarked Yamamoto while having been there during that meeting with Hiruzen and Garp, while making sure the Hokage didn't know the exact route the angry Uzumaki clan head would be going down when heading for Konoha. And it was a good thing too, since it seemed to be quite a bit of hostile activity in the area during that week when Garp was supposed to arrive in Konoha. Coincidence? Not to the Uzumaki clan it wasn't. Garp had called for a meeting with Hiruzen in a letter about him coming to see the Hokage and getting Mito's body to be buried in Uzu. The Uzumaki clan head gave Hiruzen a timetable of when he was going to arrive in Konoha and claim Mito's body regardless of what the Hokage wanted to the contrary. And lo and behold, 2 Anbu teams from Iwa were reported on several major routes that connected to Konoha and Uzu, and Kumo was reported to have had 3 Anbu teams covering the others. With one of the Anbu teams from Kumo encountering Garp, his Anbu, and Yamamoto himself went on his mission to assist in the escorting. It was clear to them when they arrived in Konoha that Hiruzen was surprised to see they made it to Konoha. Clearly he, along with his shinobi advisors, did not expect any of the Uzumaki clan members to make to the village in one piece, if at all alive. In fact, you did not need the Uzumaki clan's censor ability regarding emotions to know the Hokage along with his advisors were upset at the attempt on their lives being a total failure. It was really straining the relationship between the two villages something fierce. I know, part of me wishes she could have been buried here, but I respect clan traditions, and this is one I know my grandfather would want honored. He adored grandmother so much before he died, from what I recall. A hopeless romantic idiot, from what great-uncle Tobarama called him, said Tsunade with a smile on her face. He earned his right to marry her. Especially after the beating I gave Hashirama the day he asked for Mito's hand in marriage, and was willing to do just about anything to marry her. The brat had balls to say that to me, remarked Yamamoto, since the Shinigami had given him the memories of the previous Uzumaki Yamamoto before him. All done to ensure his own cover, as the man wouldn't be blown if asked something only the real Yamamoto would know. Yeah, I know. Grandfather did mention the fight to me one time. From what I heard from great-uncle Tobarama, who witnessed it, you beat him almost within an inch of his life, and threatened to kill him if he didn't submit. When he refused, it was only then did you give grandfather your blessing. Why? Questioned Tsunade, since she never did find out why Yamamoto gave his blessing when her grandfather had clearly lost the fight. Because Hashirama refused to stay down no matter how bloody I beat him. I saw it in his eyes at the end. He had heart, courage, and conviction surrounding his love for Mito. Your grandfather was willing to die for Mito, even if it meant never marrying her if I had landed that final blow. I saw a man willing to stare into the face of death for a member of our clan. That in itself made him worthy. A lesser man or anyone else who claimed to have loved her would have just submitted and given up the fight. Hashirama proved his worth that day. Anyone who lays down and submits to the enemy when the ones they love are on the line in some shape or form are not worthy in my eyes. If you want to be with the person you love, you got to fight for them with all of your power. Win or lose, replied Yamamoto while thinking back to his days as Uzumaki Naruto and of a certain Hyuga girl who fought for him when pain attacked. Thinking of the man, who was no doubt a child living again among his fellow kin in Uzu, made the old Uzumaki think about the other 2 orphans of AIM. Conan and Yahiko. Chances are those two were no doubt in need of help right about now, or at the very least would be in need of some help soon. He would pay a visit to where AIM was located, or at least the area around AIM, in order to find the two and bring them to Uzu. In his own previous life when in hiding, Uzumaki Naruto had traveled to AIM to pay his respects to the three orphans who had gotten hurt so much during their childhood. While the layout around the outside of AIM may be different now, Yamamoto was confident he could find Conan and Yahiko before they were lost to this war. His thoughts on the issue were interrupted when an Anbu appeared in front of the three of them and bowed respectfully. "Yamamoto-sama, Tsunade-sama, your presence is requested by the Hokage at once," said the Anbu before he vanished. "It must be serious to get the two of you involved," remarked Dan, since he knew the old Uzumaki in front of them was legend in his own right and Tsunade herself for her own experience as a shinobi. "Clearly. I wonder what he wants?" questioned Tsunade with Yamamoto shrugging. "We will find out soon enough," replied Yamamoto before he walked toward the Hokage Tower. "Will I be seeing you again after this meeting?" asked Dan with a smile on his face, and Tsunade was now blushing. "You know I will, provided it's not a mission requiring immediate deployment," answered Tsunade with Dan nodding with a sad smile. "If it is, I understand. Just come back safely," whispered Dan before he kissed her and left for his house. Such a wonderful man. Was this what Mito felt like when she was with grandfather? Or was it the other way around? Thought Tsunade, since her parents had kept their romantic life private from her and she knew little of it. Tsunade felt she took after her grandparents more than her parents when it came to her personality when dealing with different emotional moments. At least her brother Nawaki didn't act like a pervert like Jiraiya tried to do from the one time she overheard the man attempting to convince the Senju male to help with peeping on all of the women in the hot spring. Tsunade would have bashed both their brains in if not for the fact Nawaki refused to help Jiraiya and walked away. She was actually proud of her little brother for resisting. At least up until the point where Nawaki basically said all he had to do was just imagine a hot woman of his choice being naked in the safety of his head. Apparently, nude women in your mind were safer to see than in real life outside, and not even angry women could take that away from him. He said it with such pride in his voice too. She almost didn't have the hearty resolve to beat the stuffing out of her little brother later that day on principle alone. Almost. In any case, she put those personal thoughts on the back burner of her mind, and entered the Hokage's office with Yamamoto to see the Sandaime Hokage. When they entered the Hokage's office, the two ninja saw that Hiruzen, Orochimaru, Danzo, Jiraiya, Kaharu, and Homura there waiting for them. All of them were looking quite serious and knew this was something that required their attention. As much as Yamamoto hated Hiruzen and those inside the room sans Tsunade right now, the Konoha he was fighting for needed him, and the people Uzumaki Naruto would one day call friends when born. "What's the mission?" asked Tsunade while ignoring the glare Jiraiya aimed at her for a brief second, though Yamamoto made a mental note to smack the man around for it. "You, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru are going to AIM. There was small contingent of both Iwa and Kumo Nin have been spotted in the area thanks to Jiraiya's spy network. I suspect our enemies are trying to acquire favor with its leader Hanzo, the salamander of AIM. No doubt to have him aid in their cause to attack us from our rear flank. We need an alliance with AIM in order to cause the opposite for our enemies. You three will go there to show Hanzo why you three are my students and Konoha's strength. If you impress him enough with your skills, I am confident he will side with us over Kumo, or Iwa for that matter," said Hiruzen while Yamamoto narrowed his eyes. "And why am I here, Hiruzen? Your Anbu said you requested me as well as Tsunade for this meeting," remarked Yamamoto while seeing the Hokage nod to Danzo, who gave the old Uzumaki a mission scroll. The man also ignored how Homura and Kaharu wanted to scold the Uzumaki for his lack of respect toward their teammate. "You are going to AIM as well, Yamamoto-sama, but for a mission far more dangerous in its design. In the event my students fail to meet Hanzo's expectations and he decides to side with our enemies, you are going to kill Hanzo and his supports," answered Hiruzen with Yamamoto scowled slightly since this mission given to him was extremely fishy for his tastes. "Why send me? Why not send Danzo? Or a team of highly trained Anbu?" questioned Yamamoto since he knew Hiruzen well enough to know that sending someone of his level was overkill. It was like sending a fully trained Jinchuriki with control over the Biju's power to fight an infant barely able to walk. Are you questioning Hokage-sama's orders surrounding this mission, Yamamoto-sama? Questioned Homura in a disapproving tone. Such a thing could be considered treason, remarked Kaharu while glaring at Yamamoto with dislike in her eyes. I question the reason to send me. Not the mission itself. It's overkill. Not only that, but what will happen in the off chance I failed my mission after they failed theirs? AIM will see the Konoha and Uzumaki clan as its enemy. AIM is closer to Uzu than any of the other shinobi villages and thus make things problematic for my clan. I have no intention of making my family a bigger target during this war, countered Yamamoto while giving Hiruzen's teammates a glare. Are you not up to this mission, Yamamoto-sama? Given your age, no one would think any less of you, challenged Hiruzen while Yamamoto's eyes narrowed in on him. Do not speak to me about age when compared to your weak monkey ass. Even now, I could take on everyone in this room, and still have more than enough strength to flatten this village into nothingness, said Yamamoto while flexing his spiritual pressure on the people in the room and made to remind them all that he was far from weak. I stand corrected, replied Hiruzen with great reluctance since he was sadly outclassed by Yamamoto's power and hated it. He hated anything and anyone stronger than himself. I will take the mission, Hiruzen. But I highly doubt you will even need me there to fight Hanzo. Especially, if all three of your students here are as capable as you seem to claim, remarked Yamamoto before walking out of the room with Tsunade right beside him. That old man is a pain my ass, remarked Jiraiya bitterly since he had been watching the old man for a while now and was furious with Yamamoto for getting Tsunade interested in that sissy-looking Kato Dan. Enough, Jiraiya. We don't need you being distracted now of all times from the mission due to your own personal reasons regarding the imaginary romance between yourself and Tsunade, said Orochimaru offhand while Jiraiya bristled in anger. Hey, no one loves Tsunade more than me. Not you, Sarutobi-sensei, and certainly not that sissy boy Dan. Yamamoto Teme got those two interested in each other over their stupid concerns about the medical field. My field is spying, Fuinjutsu, my research I do in the hot springs. Only one interests Tsunade and not in the way I can get her to swoon like she does with Kato Dan. How am I supposed to compete with that? Protested Jiraiya, as he saw Orochimaru roll his eyes. Enough, Jiraiya. I will help you with this Dan person at a later time. Right now, I need you to focus on the task at hand with Hanzo and AIM, commanded Hiruzen while Jiraiya just grumbled, but agreed with him. Territory around AIM. The two orphans of AIM looked up at Yamamoto in fear. They could easily tell this man was strong. He hid it well, but they had seen enough in their short lives to know this old Uzumaki was nothing to mock or sneeze at. He could crush them like bugs. Yet he gave them both a gentle smile. Who are you? Asked the boy on guard against the stranger in this rainy land. A friend, replied Yamamoto calmly. Many have said that to us, said the girl with caution in her voice. And, questioned Yamamoto curiously? They were all liars, answered the boy. I am not them, replied Yamamoto with the boy and girl looking him over. Why are you here? Asked the boy. I am here for you too, answered Yamamoto with the boy and girl now being put on edge by his words. To hurt us? Asked the girl while the boy moved into a crude fighting stance. No, to help you, answered Yamamoto with the two children looking at him with looks of disbelief. Why would you help us? We are mere orphans. No one wants us, said the girl. It is because you are orphans that I wish to help you, countered Yamamoto with both children looking at him in confusion. That doesn't make any sense, said the girl while Yamamoto let out a huff of annoyance. The reason you are orphans is due to the war between several shinobi villages. The war has finally spilled into AIM and you have suffered greatly in the process. I am here to help ensure you do not have to suffer anymore, replied Yamamoto with both children unsure if he was lying or telling the truth. And how do you intend to do that? Asked the boy. By taking you both with me back to the Uzumaki clan in Uzu. To become members of our clan, replied Yamamoto with the boy and girl looking unsure. To Uzu? Asked the girl. Yes, I assure you both this is a genuine offer. If you say no, I will understand, and will leave you two alone to your own devices here in AIM, replied Yamamoto with both children looking at each other. Why are you doing this for us? Why not the other orphans roaming around AIM at this point? What makes us so special? Asked the boy since he figured there was more to this moment than they were led to believe. You both have amazing potential to do something with your lives. For good or ill. I wish to see you both reach that potential for the good of all the world, said Yamamoto with the two children looking at him with cautious yet hopeful eyes. I heard if a member of a clan swears on their family honor, they have to follow through with it no matter what. Is that right? Asked the boy. Yes, and the Uzumaki clan, which I am a part of, takes such honor very seriously, said Yamamoto with both the girl and boy looking at each other again. Do you swear on the honor of the Uzumaki clan that your intentions in taking us away from AIM are for the right reasons? That this isn't some kind of cruel trap for some sick, twisted, and perverse enjoyment in seeing us be abused in some manner? Questioned the boy with Yamamoto nodding. I swear it on my honor as a member of the Uzumaki clan and on the souls of my clan's ancestors dating back to the time of the Sage of Six Paths himself, replied Yamamoto without hesitation and saw the two children lower their guard. My name is Yahiko, said the boy now identified as Yahiko. I'm Conan, said the girl now identified as Conan. And I am Uzumaki Yamamoto. Actually my full name is super long so I decided to just keep it short at Yamamoto, replied Yamamoto offhandedly at the end. How far away is Uzu? Asked Yahiko with Yamamoto stroking his long beard. It is a country surrounded by water. An island country actually. It's far away from AIM, but not too far. Well over 2 weeks if we move fast enough, answered Yamamoto with both children looking a little upset they had to travel 2 weeks with little to nothing to Uzu. Hopefully, this trip would be worth it the long wait. Konoha Hokage's office weeks later. This is inexcusable sensei. He left the three of us to fight Hanzo. And for what? All for 2 measly orphans he took pity on, exclaimed Jiraiya while Orochimaru and Tsunade were in the room listening to him complain. I too must admit sensei, Yamamoto's action in abandoning us during the mission is most disheartening. This cannot go unpunished, added Orochimaru, though he only added to Jiraiya's defense simply out of his pride being deflated after the defeat he suffered at the hands of Hanzo. Oh, get over yourself, both of you. Yamamoto-sama shouldn't have gone with us in the first place. Him being there was overkill and all 3 of you know it, replied Tsunade while she saw the 2 men in the room trying to have their egos tended to by their sensei. You wouldn't say that if Hanzo killed one of us or was about to kill you. What if your precious Dan or Nawaki was there, and Hanzo killed them? Would you be defending him then? Asked Jiraiya before he was floored by Tsunade with her fist to his face. First off, do not speak to me like that about Dan or Nawaki again. Second, they weren't part of our team, and Yamamoto-sama knew that from the start when he was here for that mission briefing. Third, I know Yamamoto-sama would have never allowed it to get that far with us dying. He clearly had faith in us to get the job done with Hanzo regardless if we won or lost our fight. And finally, Yamamoto gave 2 orphans, who suffered in this war, partially because of us, a place to live, and be loved in Uzu. It was a loving act and you should show him respect, said Tsunade while she saw Jiraiya on the ground. Sadly, she has a point. Jiraiya thought Hiruzen knowing his student deserved that hit no matter how much he wanted to scold Tsunade for it. Getting back to topic at hand, sensei. Are you going to punish Yamamoto-sama for his abandoning of his mission in AIM? Questioned Orochimaru curiously. Hiruzen was silent for a second to consider his action on the matter. On the one hand, he could try to impose some form of punishment on Yamamoto for what he did in AIM. On the other hand, if Hiruzen did that, he would have to reveal why Yamamoto was there, and the mission the Uzumaki was sent on wasn't what you would call sanctioned. The Sandaime Hokage had made it seem like mission was when Yamamoto had first decided to question the reason for him being in there. But in truth, the mission was designed to smear the honor of the Uzumaki clan and make Uzu an enemy of AIM in the future. I need time to think about my decision. The Uzumaki clan will no doubt fight me on this since they know what Yamamoto did when bringing the orphans to Uzu. With things strained between us as it is, I don't know if punishing Yamamoto would be good for us right now, said Hiruzen while needing to discuss this with Danzo, Homura, and Kaharu before reaching a decision. Seeing Tsunade nod and leave, Hiruzen saw Orochimaru do the same while giving the Hokage a knowing look before leaving the office. This of course left Jiraiya, who was not done yet after getting off the ground. I want that sissy boy Kato Dan dead, said Jiraiya tactlessly while Hiruzen raised an eyebrow at him. The one you keep saying Tsunade is seeing romantically? Questioned Hiruzen while Jiraiya nodded. I know she is, or soon will be anyway. She's getting all lovey-dovey with the guy and it's not fair. I loved Tsunade since we were kids. Yet she rejects me for this skinny, bleeding heart. Idiot. He'll ruin her. We need to remove him from the village and Tsunade's heart before he has that chance," stated Jiraiya angrily at his former sensei. "Tsunade will clearly be devastated if Dan dies." Jiraiya. "What about her feelings on this matter? She will not be so emotionally vulnerable that your advances will be accepted like you think." Jiraiya questioned Hiruzen while Jiraiya scoffed. "Tsunade doesn't know what she wants. She doesn't need some wimp like Dan in her life. She needs a guy like me. A manly man like me. Someone who can take care of her every need. I just have to show her the cold hard painful truth, and I can't do that unless Dan is removed from the picture," countered Jiraiya while Hiruzen sighed. "And what if the two getting together helps produce children to further carry the Senju clan line?" questioned Hiruzen before Jiraiya surprisingly glared at him with surprising anger. "No one is allowed to get Tsunade pregnant but me. Understand, sensei? Not Dan, not Orochimaru, not some guy on the street looking to lucky. Me," exclaimed Jiraiya while he had a crazed look in his eyes. "I'll look into it, Jiraiya. There are some missions we might be able to use for what you have in mind. I'll have to look at them to find the most promising solution to the little problem surrounding your love life," replied Hiruzen while Jiraiya just nodded before leaving via the window. "Tsunade is mine and mine alone. No one will stop me from swooping down and laying claim to my hime. Not Dan, and certainly not that old geezer Yamamoto. He was the one to get Tsunade and Dan together. I have to make sure he doesn't interfere in my plans to rip them apart," thought Jiraiya angrily at the idea of Dan being with Tsunade and having a happy life together. Jiraiya would ensure his hime loved him and no one else, even if he had to kill everyone Tsunade loved around her. When many first saw Uzumaki Yamamoto, they saw only what their eyes perceived, and believed of him in terms of appearance. He looked like an old, sickly, tired man with no form of strength. The legend stated he was back as a young man. Many of the people, from merely looking at him based on first glance, would easily assume the man was weak, and a small gust of wind would knock the old man over. Of course, we are reminded of the old adage that appearances can be deceiving. Hence what the many unfortunate Konoha ninja around him at training ground number 22 sadly realized when they were being put through the ringer by Yamamoto in a spar. The man had taken off his coat and upper clothing to reveal the physical body of a god made flesh. If it weren't for the long beard and wrinkled face, you would never have believed this was the body of an old man, and an Uzumaki to boot. It was almost amusing to Yamamoto to see so many shinobi of Konoha on the ground, moaning in pain, and in need of medical attention. In the time he was here, many shinobi had become less intimidated by him, and claiming the Uzumaki was past his prime, and to just retire from service. They felt it an insult to their pride as young men and women as well as ninja of Konoha that this old man could keep up with them like it was nothing. So they did the only thing that came to mind is those who felt their wounded pride needed to be inflated again. They challenged Yamamoto to a spar. All of them vs Uzumaki Yamamoto. It drew many spectators, civilians and shinobi alike, from simple merchants to Tsunade, Nawaki, Dan, and even the Sandaime Hokage himself. Danzo was also watching with his root in the shadows to assess how great the threat Yamamoto was to Konoha. Even the likes of Orochimaru and Jiraiya were watching from a distance when the fighting started. If you could call it a fight. It left many of the ninja spectators watching to realize this man before them was not what they all assumed him to be in terms of being a weak old man. Of course, Yamamoto could hardly be called weak now when the old Uzumaki had single-handedly defeated a total of 135 shinobi ranging from Chunin to Junin and even a few Anbu in nothing but pure taijutsu. Yamamoto hasn't lost a step. He's how old and still this strong, thought Hiruzen with a bead of sweat rolling down the side of his face. That's my old man Yama. Kicking ass and taking names, exclaimed Kushina beside Tsunade and giving a victory sign at Jiraiya, who grumbled at her, and reluctantly gave the woman a large roll of money. Tsunade would have chimed in on the bet, but Nawaki reminded her that every time she bet on something, or someone, she always loses. It earned him a lump on the head via her fist, but in the end Nawaki knew it was totally worth it. Especially when seeing a red-faced Tsunade glaring at Dan when the man snickered at the truth and had to defend himself from the angry woman when she heard it. The strength behind Uzumaki genetics is most impressive. If only everyone were able to share in such a bloodline trait, remarked Orochimaru with a hint of interest in his voice that beneath the layer of minor interest was a much deeper amount of greater interest. For years, his sensei had told him the Senju bloodline was the superior bloodline when compared to the Uchiha clan, since both were descended from the Sage of Sixth Paths, each having the claim from one clan being descended from the eldest son of the sage and the other was descended from the youngest. So the mere richness of each bloodline with their unique abilities was considered to be a grand treasure to be coveted, defended, and protected at all costs. And for the longest time, Orochimaru believed his sensei to be right. At least until today, when seeing one Uzumaki Yamamoto, the oldest Uzumaki on known record, smashing through men far younger, and in their prime no less. Yamamoto was well over 100 years old, had been around since the time of the warring clans area before Hashirama and Madara ended the feud between their clans to form Konoha. It was almost hard for someone with Orochimaru's ingenious mind to comprehend the idea of this old man besting those younger and, thus in theory by the natural order of things, supposed to be stronger individuals. He knew the Uzumaki clan were cousin clans of the Senju and thus almost them cousins to the Uchiha clan to some small extension. It also gave them a connection to the Sage of Six Paths himself, so they were in the same type of criteria that Hiruzen put the other two. Though why his sensei didn't put the Uzumaki clan in the same category of protection as the Senju or Uchiha clan slightly puzzled Orochimaru. Surely the Uzumaki clan was just as worthy as the Senju or Uchiha. He would have to speak in private to his sensei about that later. "Is there anyone else here still wishing to let this spar continue?" asked Yamamoto while he glanced around at the fallen bodies of those he defeated without so much as a sweat. "No, we're good," whispered one Anbu on the ground with half his mask destroyed. Letting out a huff, Yamamoto grabbed his upper clothing and put it on before grabbing his staff, sword with the appearance of being an old man once more making itself seen. Though no one was fooled by it in the slightest and many gave Yamamoto a wide space to walk by with respect for the old man's prowess showing in their eyes. Well, most of the eyes they're watching him. "You were awesome as always, old man Yama," exclaimed Nawaki excitedly, which he was always like after seeing the old-looking man beat the snot out of all the other elites in the ninja force Konoha possessed. He was sure a few Uchiha and Hyuga were in that pile of beaten bodies back there. "Nawaki, be more respectful," scolded Tsunade while Yamamoto smirked. "It's all right, Tsunade-chan. The boy is just being supportive of me. Besides, we all know that Konoha's ninja forces currently needed this major wake-up call by my hands. There has been a growing sense of arrogance among their ranks as of late," replied Yamamoto while frowning while thinking about all the Konoha shinobi walking around with a hint of superiority in their step. "You have to admit it yourself, Tsunade-chan, it has been feeling like that for a while. We are currently winning the war against Kumo and Iwa, but it's making some people in the village believe we are invincible. I think we can both agree from a medical standpoint that arrogance is its own kind of poison," remarked Dan, since he had overheard some of the drunk shinobi at the bar boast how the other villages were weak and everyone from Konoha were the most superior breed of shinobi in the world. "He's right, sis. Konoha needs a kick in the ass to keep it humble. Otherwise we'll have a whole generation of arrogant jerks for ninja," replied Nawaki while Tsunade sighed. "She's not wrong, cousin," added Kushina while Tsunade raised her hands in surrender. All right, you made your point," exclaimed Tsunade while Kushina, Dan, and Kushina laughed at Tsunade's expense. "So, on a different topic, when is the wedding between you two lovebirds?" remarked Nawaki, knowing it would make Tsunade blush and Dan sputter. And he wasn't disappointed. "Well, I don't know. I mean, that is to say, with the war," replied Dan while looking for Tsunade for help, but the woman was glaring at Nawaki and growling in anger. "If I were you, Nawaki, I would run right now before your sister punches you out of the village," remarked Yamamoto with Nawaki doing just that and Tsunade giving chase. "You know Tsunade's mood well," remarked Dan while seeing his future wife chasing Nawaki. "She is part Uzumaki and thus clearly has our temper," replied Yamamoto with a grin on his bearded face with the sound of Tsunade yelling at Nawaki and Nawaki taunting her. "That she is Yamamoto-sama," remarked Dan while a sweat drop formed on the back of his head and heard the sound of a crater made from Tsunade's fist being made with the noise of Nawaki complaining how she nearly hit him. "So what is it like to be a genin, my girl?" asked Yamamoto with a hint of pride in his voice as he was now focusing on Kushina. Good. Most of the academy students were wimps. But some have potential to be strong. Except for that girly and thinly looking Minato, replied Kushina with a huff at the end. Don't sell the boy short. He has amazing potential for one his age, replied Yamamoto while Kushina shrugged. If you say so, old man Yama, said Kushina while trying to act like she didn't care, and Yamamoto himself was thinking of other matters. The mission that will cause her to be kidnapped is going to happen soon. As much as I want to interfere and save the girl myself, I need those two kids to get together so they can have a child that would be Uzumaki Naruto in the future. The only thing that bothers me about this situation is how did Kumo know how to target her in the other timeline of things? Surely Hiruzen or Jiraiya didn't try to orchestrate it to get Kushina to fall in love with Minato and form a strong, almost unbreakable bond with Konoha in the process? Then again, they probably did with Uzu falling in that timeline, and Kushina never really being able to bond with anyone when arriving in Konoha following that event. But with Uzu alive and functioning, not to mention myself helping her along before and after Mito died, Kushina now has bonds in both places. Though it's more to the people in it rather than the village as a whole, thought Yamamoto with the man glancing at Kushina for a second. Oh, I almost forgot, I never did get a chance to thank you for saving me during that one mission a few months ago. Thank you Yamamoto-sama for that intervention, said Dan, as he saw Yamamoto turn to look at him, and gave the man a gentle smile. Yamamoto had waited patiently until Dan's assigned mission by Hiruzen and Jiraiya was given to the man. The old Uzumaki knew the story from his previous life behind Dan's death, from the ambush to the sacrifice made to defeat the enemy in battle to win. How Tsunade had been utterly broken by his loss after Dan had successfully healed her heart following Nawaki's death. Not only that, but the end result had made Tsunade bitter in her belief toward life, made Shizune submissive to her commands, and overall shy while hesitant to do almost anything without the older woman's approval. Which was all the more reason for Yamamoto to step in and change the outcome. When the ambush came, Yamamoto did some ambushing of his own, and with backup in the form of some Uzu Anbu, he requested Garp send to further provide support. It also gave Yamamoto an excuse to have Garp send his newly reformed Anbu squads complete with medic nins via Tsunade's medic program, capable of fighting when necessary. Not only did the Anbu from Uzu decimate the ambush aimed at Dan and his team, but they also showed what their squad was capable of with medic nins due to the ambush team severely injuring several of Dan's comrades prior to being rescued. In fact, it was because of the medic nins from Uzu that two members of Dan's squad were not only alive, but still had all of their limbs intact. Naturally, the Hokage was not pleased at all by this development, but not in the way most people thought. He was upset. Most thought he was upset because Uzu now had the very reformed medic nin program that Tsunade had wanted Konoha to have at one point for the village. When Tsunade was brought before the Hokage for answers, she told Hiruzen that Yamamoto talked to Uzumaki Garp, the clan head of the Uzumaki clan, about the idea of having the program in Uzu since Konoha didn't want it when they were given the offer. How Garp said yes, was sent a copy of the information Tsunade had on the project, and began to implement on their end. She actually questioned him on why he was upset it. Why should Konoha be upset it went to Uzu, since the Uzumaki clan was a longtime ally of Konoha and her cousin clan, with her having blood ties to both. Hiruzen told her to be more careful since even clans with cousin-based relations to other clans can be betrayed for power. Yamamoto, who had been there for that meeting, let out a huff, and mentally called Hiruzen a hypocrite due to him trying to betray Uzu since his taking of the Hokage hat. Still, there was nothing Hiruzen could do on the matter since Konoha had its shot, and failed to get in on the ground floor of this medic nin program. The Shinobi Advisory Council demanded the Uzumaki clan send instructors to Konoha and Tsunade provide notes for their own shinobi to train in, but Tsunade told them no, and so did Yamamoto, since it was now considered a clan matter between the cousins. Naturally, it pissed off the higher-ups in Konoha something fierce. Tsunade and Yamamoto reminded them that the village had its chance, but threw it away due to the war, the supposed time, the effort, and of course financial restrictions Konoha claimed to have on itself. All of which got proven to be total bullshit, since the Uzumaki clan took all the information Tsunade gave them and created the medic nin program without those issues being a factor. All in all, it had made Konoha's higher-ups now look like a bunch of spineless idiots, with the Hokage looking like the biggest idiot of all. A nice little, yet noticeable blemish on the man's record as Hokage if there ever was one. No problem at all. Tsunade-chan loves you very much. Your death would have hurt her deeply. And little Shizune is a little sister to her too. I wasn't about to have my cousin lose the man she loved before they could marry. I still have to give you the customary Uzumaki beat down like the one I gave Hashirama for Mito's hand in marriage. She may have the Senju name attached, but Tsunade is an Uzumaki as well, and I will be damned if I don't try and see if you have the endurance capabilities to handle what comes with the territory," remarked Yamamoto with a hearty laugh, and got a nervous one from Dan in return. "I'm going to die by his hands before I get married. I just know it," thought Dan while he hoped Tsunade could convince Yamamoto to give him a break. "You should try and visit Uzu sometime. You and Tsunade would love it," commented Yamamoto with Dan nodding. "Yes, I hear Uzu is truly thriving. I also hear those 2 orphans you rescued in AIM are doing quite well," replied Dan with Yamamoto nodding. "Yes, they are part of a genin team now with another member of my clan. An Uzumaki Nagato, I believe. They are really hitting it off. Calling themselves Team Akatsuki, of all things," remarked Yamamoto since he went back and forth between Konoha and Uzu from time to time. "And you suggesting the idea had nothing to do with it?" questioned Dan, since he was sure Yamamoto had a hand in it like he usually did things that gained his attention. "I don't know what you are talking about," commented Yamamoto innocently enough. "Right, and I'm sure you had nothing to do with Jiraiya being strung up naked on the female side of the hot springs after he was caught peeping so all the women could beat the snot out of him," thought Dan while making a mental note to always be faithful to Tsunade no matter what. He didn't need this old man for an Uzumaki doing something horrible to him now or from beyond the grave. And Dan was quite certain the man would most definitely do the latter. "Hokage Tower at the moment. You assured me that the little shit would die, sensei," exclaimed Jiraiya angrily while he saw Hiruzen sighed at his former student. "And he would have died, Jiraiya, if not for the Uzumaki clan sending Anbu there to help step in at the last moment," replied Hiruzen bitterly after the pause in his response. "Damn Uzumaki clan. They always meddle when they get involved in something," said Jiraiya angrily while Hiruzen nodded in agreement. "I know the Hyuga clan being chief among them. Yamamoto has been hounding them for months about their cage bird seal and making one that all the Hyuga clan can wear. Apparently, he is in fact the maker of the original cage bird seal," remarked Hiruzen while seeing Jiraiya looking floored by this news. "You're shitting me, him?" questioned Jiraiya while Hiruzen shook his head. "No, I'm not, though what the Hyuga use now is different than the one he gave them. It was apparently called the Dojutsu Protection Seal and did everything the cage bird seal does now, except it didn't cause the people wearing it any pain when a certain hand sign is used," explained Hiruzen with Jiraiya looking smug. "Well, I guess I'm such a great Fuinjutsu master, isn't so great at his craft after all if the Hyuga could alter it into what they want," mocked Jiraiya while Hiruzen frowned further. "Shut up, Jiraiya. You aren't one to talk when it comes to your Fuinjutsu skills even if you are called a master. He can make your work look like crap. I have seen the samples done by him when compared to your own. It outshines you by far," said Hiruzen with Jiraiya letting out grumble. "Yeah, well, I'm a better peeper at the hot springs, so I have that," whispered Jiraiya, which caused Hiruzen to sweat drop at his defense pertaining to his work in Fuinjutsu. That aside, Yamamoto brought it to everyone's attention that the Hyuga clan signed a binding contract stating their clan wouldn't alter, change, or basically overall butcher the original design, said Hiruzen with Jiraiya wincing since he knew what that meant. "And let me guess, Yamamoto has all the records to back up his claim on the issue," said Jiraiya with Hiruzen nodding. "With additional copies of the contract also located in Uzu. He brought it up at the last meeting when Hyuga Hibachi had enough of Yamamoto's protest and demanded proof of such things being done. Yamamoto had everything on hand to present to the councils and the other clan heads. From the contract signed by all parties involved, including Hibachi's own grandfather, and even father were on it. All the way to showing the actual seal he made, what it did, and where it was best to place it on a member of the Hyuga clan. Apparently it would be well hidden on the back of the neck behind their long hair instead of the forehead," remarked Hiruzen while Jiraiya nodded. "What did Hibachi say to that?" asked Jiraiya with Hiruzen sighing. He claimed the contract was a fake and the signatures were forged. Not to mention he called the Dojutsu protection seal inadequate and thus shouldn't be used since it did not provide proper hierarchy structure to any clan who chooses to use it, replied Hiruzen with Jiraiya sighing. So he tried to bullshit his way out of it, surmised Jiraiya with Hiruzen nodding. Pretty much yes. Yamamoto told Hibachi if he didn't change things within his clan now, there would be bad blood between the inner parts of the clan in the future that would go so deep, even the fear of the usage of the caged bird seal wouldn't stop the branch family from one day taking revenge. Hibachi of course misread the words as a threat made by Yamamoto to his clan and banned any Uzumaki from ever entering the Hyuga clan compound in fear one of them would try, said Hiruzen while Jiraiya shook his head. What does the fire daimyo have to say about this? Such matters normally reach his ear and gain his attention when one or both parties yell loud enough, questioned Jiraiya with Hiruzen sighing. Right now, the current fire daimyo is hoping we resolve this internally before being forced to intervene. I told him we would handle this issue, but according to the laws in place, I might have to side with Yamamoto on this. I don't want to for obvious reasons, but if I go against him, I risk the old man revealing other matters both of us can't afford to see brought into the light, replied Hiruzen with Jiraiya scowling. Meaning what we did in terms of secretly betraying Uzu. I still say they can't prove it, said Jiraiya with Hiruzen shaking his head. Among other things, namely our actions pertaining to the near death of Senju Nawaki and our more recent attempt to get rid of Tsunade's future husband Dan. He made it quite clear that our hidden actions could be proven if we challenge him further, added Hiruzen while Jiraiya snarled at that last part. I'll kill the bastard myself if he marries Tsunade. I don't care if I become a missing nin for it. I'll kill him, go into hiding for years on end, and you can pardon me as your last act as Hokage before your successor takes over so no one can lay a hand on me, commented Jiraiya with Hiruzen giving him a hard look. You will do not such thing, Jiraiya. I need you and your spy network. I can't have either one if you're a missing nin on the run. I can't protect you. I can't cover for you. And I certainly can't stop Tsunade from hunting you down to do unspeakable acts of vengeance upon your person after you're tried, said Hiruzen while Jiraiya looked like he wanted to punch something. So that's it, huh? Just let that sissy boy marry Tsunadeheim? My Tsunadeheim? To let him pollute her bloodline with his own? Questioned Jiraiya with Hiruzen scoffing. Spare me all of your theatrics, Jiraiya. Your own bloodline heritage isn't anything worthy of being praised about and you know it. Remember, you have been an orphan all your life while Dan is not. Between the two of you on bloodlines alone, Dan has you beat. Unless, you can provide undisputed proof that you are the son of some great high-ranking clan, or even the long-lost child of our own fire daimyo himself. You are outmatched, replied the Sandaime Hokage with Jiraiya now gritting his teeth. You know I don't have such proof, stated Jiraiya angrily. Then shut up about it. What's done is done. Besides, this will be blessing for Konoha in the long run. For years, Tsunade has ignored, shunned, or punched out every male suitor until Dan came along. We need more Senju clan members, Jiraiya. Nawaki will find his own girl soon enough and Tsunade with Dan will help us have more than just two among our ranks. Meaning we can easily acquire the genetic material from those future children under the medical reasons for Orochimaru's research plans. Konoha will still get stronger as time goes by. Everyone wins, exclaimed Hiruzen firmly while Jiraiya glared. Not everyone, replied Jiraiya while he moved to leave. I am warning you this one time, Jiraiya. Do not go after Kato Dan. I only indulged you in your request at the time to have him killed because I thought it was the better choice. I also had hoped you could convince Tsunade to be with you in the years to come and the two of you could produce a child capable of being greater than either parent. But now the window to that option has long since been closed and cannot be opened again. Just let it go, commanded the Sandaime Hokage with Jiraiya scowling deeper. Never, whispered Jiraiya before leaping out of the window. Damn it, Jiraiya, your obsession will become a problem for me and Konoha in the future to come. I just know it, commented Hiruzen since his student always did act foolishly and made everyone associated look bad. Senju clan home sometime later. So Minato saved you from those Kumo nin, huh? Well, good for him. I always knew that boy had a decent-sized brain in his head, commented Tsunade while Kushina blushed a bit both in embarrassment at being captured, rescued, and finally regarding Minato saving her. It's nothing special. I just let some of my hair out to leave a trail. He even mentioned how nice my hair was and I shouldn't try to take out too much, replied Kushina while she tried to hide her blush. What's this? You're blushing. Does my dear fiery tomboy for a cousin have a crush on one Namikaze Minato-kun? Questioned Tsunade with Kushina now blushing further and glaring at the senju. Says the older woman, who only now is getting married prior to entering her hag years in life, countered Kushina with Tsunade's forehead sporting a tick mark. What did you say? I am not old in the slightest, exclaimed Tsunade while Kushina shot a raspberry at her. So you say, but I can already see the color gray forming in your blonde hair. And is that a wrinkle? Teased Kushina with Tsunade getting angrier. That's it, you're dead, yelled Tsunade before the two ran around the room with one chasing the other. Well, now I know where I get it from, thought Yamamoto with the old man smirking at the sight of the two causing chaos around him. How he was going to miss it when dead. The Shinigami had appeared before him just last night in a dream and told Yamamoto his time was almost up. The second shinobi war was coming to an end soon. Dan was alive. Nawaki was alive, the Uzumaki clan was alive, and most of the dark things that led to more dark things in the future were no longer possible. Yamamoto knew Madara was still alive, hiding in his little lair, waiting for his opportunity to find someone to carry on his legacy, and the will that was in fact Kaguya's own. She had used her own influence to poison Madara's mind beyond repair because of his already upset attitude toward his life made him an easy target between her choice and targets. She could have targeted the Senju line, but Hashirama put a stop to that with his outlook toward life, and the Uzumaki clan were following him in that regard too. Hence the one side with hatred on the Uchiha's side already in their heart being the prime targets. Some things will sadly have to occur from what the Shinigami told me. Like how Uchiha Obito becoming Madara's pupil and trying to let Kurama out of his seal to attack Konoha. But unlike last time, there will be good number of Uzumaki clan members present, and I would ensure a repeat of before doesn't happen. Konoha wouldn't be attacked by the fox, no one would die, and no one would know Uzumaki Naruto was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, thought Yamamoto, as he would leave instructions for Garp and the Uzumaki clan in general to be read following his death for the day when the Kyuubi would be sealed inside of his future self. Provided of course, his mother or father sealed it into him on the night of his birth. There was always a possibility that outcome would change. Still, so long as Obito failed in his mission, it should be enough. At least for a time. For now, all Yamamoto had to do was hold on to his life long enough to ensure certain issues didn't happen following his death. 2 weeks later. Uzumaki Garp was reading a long, yet important letter sent by Yamamoto and it was not a good one. The letter stated the old man was finally feeling his age and that his days of living were numbered. In his letter was a set of instructions regarding certain issue to be carried out upon his death and all of them surrounded Konoha. The letter went on to state that Uzu was to keep Konoha at an arm's distance in terms of friendship until Hiruzen was no longer Hokage and the man's advisors along with a certain warhawk for a rival to the seat were dead. To alter its security system so no one in Konoha except those Yamamoto listed could be trusted and to destroy the secret tunnel entrance before rebuilding a new one. Not only that, but Yamamoto insisted that when Kushina became pregnant with a child of her own, why Yamamoto thought that Garp had no idea, she should have the said child in Uzu, and under heavily guarded protection. In the possible event they can't have her come to Uzu, they were to secretly enter Konoha, and not reveal themselves until the last moment. To use all their skills to protect Kushina during the birthing process that would risk the fox escaping. Garp of course read the hidden meaning behind the letter stating those in Konoha would be frothing at the mouth for the power they were going to one day be waiting for that moment of weakness should they see an opportunity to take the Biju from Kushina into another Uzumaki. Possibly her own child if what the letter implied was indeed accurate and they would ensure the child suffered. The Uzumaki clan knew all about the abuse Jinchuriki went through in other villages and thought Hashirama was an idiot to divide them up without considering how the people of each village would use them. Both Yamamoto and Garp wanted to smash their fists into the man if he were alive here today. Mito's husband or not, this letter is seriously troubling. Yamamoto was the one who ensured our survival all those years ago when the Second Shinobi War was at its peak of violence. Not to mention he saved our cousin clan member Nawaki and Tsunade's lover Kato Dan in the belief that their deaths would hurt Tsunade. At first I questioned how he knew, but shrugged it off as an old man's wisdom, instincts, and intuition being razor sharp from years of experience. But this? No, this warning is not just a warning. This letter is basically of blast it all. What's the word? Premonition. Yes, a premonition. A foretelling of the future and of things to come if we don't act. Mito clearly trusted him to get the Shinigami masks from the shrine here in secret. She trusted him to watch over Kushina after she died in Konoha. Hell, I trusted him long enough to see he was indeed a full-blown Uzumaki in every sense of the word. He saved our clan from total annihilation several times over. If I don't listen to him now when this might be his last final act in warning us, I might as well be a total idiot, thought Garp before calling for his most elite Anbu within the clan. Yes, Garp-sama? Asked the Anbu captain of Uzu. We're going to strengthen and alter our defenses. Do it quietly. I want new security seals, detection seals, traps within traps, and everything else we can do to fortify Uzu. I want Uzu so well defended, we could withstand a Biju bomb, and still be able to flip the said Biju off. Exclaimed Garp while his Anbu team in front of him sweat dropped. Garp-sama, you're being overly dramatic again, commented one of the Anbu before being punched in the back of his head by Garp. I am not. Now get to it. I have a letter here from Yamamoto-sama himself. From what the message he sent to me states, the man foresees trouble ahead if we don't do something about this, and fast. Stated Garp angrily while shaking his fists at the now scared group. Yes, Garp-sama. Right away, said the Anbu captain before his team left after picking up their fellow Anbu who was on the ground. Yamamoto-sama made it clear that Konoha might try something like they did before in the future. Was he referring to another shinobi war? And if so, when will that happen? No matter, I have to put things in place before that happens, thought Garp before he was back at his desk making additional preparations for the future. Konoha 4 months later, Uzumaki Yamamoto was dead, confirmed by Tsunade herself. She cried, of course, like all those that knew him. Cause of death? Natural. The man died in his sleep. Peacefully. Happy. It was clear to the woman that the old man had faith in the future being bright with a few cloudy spots, but nothing those he knew couldn't endure. The man had done so much for Uzu, his cousin clan, and Konoha to a slightly lesser extent. It was a blow to the Uzumaki clan to know such a great man had left this world, and only after the Second Shinobi War ended just 1 month ago. He even left Kushina a nice large home to call her own right near the Senju clan compound after secretly purchasing the plot of land before constructing it. The old Uzumaki informed her of it in his will and where it was located so she could dispel the genjutsu for herself. Yamamoto explained in his will the house was big because, you will need it one day when having a family of your own one day with that special man in your life. Which caused Kushina to blush when read out loud since she had a good idea on what he meant and who he was referring to in terms of that special man. When Tsunade presented the report to Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage hid the happiness he felt knowing the old Uzumaki was dead. The man had been a pain in the Sandaime's side for so long, it was almost hard to imagine Yamamoto had died, and could not longer influence things in Konoha. The Hyuga clan had been on the defensive for so long due to the push for a reform regarding the division of their house. Now with Yamamoto dead, the issue would hopefully stay buried again, and the Hokage was sure he could keep any further complaints made by Kushina at bay. Oh, if only that were true. I need to get access to that man's body. Or get Orochimaru to gain access to it before the body starts to rot. Once he has enough Uzumaki genetic material, I'm sure he can use it to find a way to extend our lives beyond the normal expectations. Once we mix it with the material I can gather from the Senju clan, the means of being truly immortal with godlike powers will be in our grasp, thought Hiruzen while smirking at the idea of living for so long and using the various powers given by such bloodline splicing to control unfathomable power. I take it you heard? Asked Danzo while appearing from the shadows. Naturally. Tsunade just left to mourn his death in private. I take it you feel some form of emotion known as happiness in that emotionless husk you call a body, Danzo? Perhaps a small smile? Questioned Hiruzen with Danzo staying emotionless the whole time. Emotions are for the weak, Hiruzen. I feel nothing for Yamamoto in terms of reaction to his death. I didn't care for him when he was alive and his death is no different. I take it Orochimaru will be informed shortly so he can acquire some genetic samples from the corpse for testing? Countered Danzo with Hiruzen smirking at the predicted answer. Yes, though my student might already know and doing it right now. Currently, the body of Yamamoto is currently in the morgue. Easy enough to sneak in, take what is needed, and sneak back out without anyone knowing, replied Hiruzen while Danzo nodded. The Uzumaki clan will come to claim his body. We should destroy it and claim some kind of accident caused such an outcome, offered Danzo since it would be so easy to do that. A final act of revenge against Yamamoto I take it? And to hurt the Uzumaki clan no less? Questioned Hiruzen since the idea did have some appeal to him. They set our master plan back by several decades. They ruined our chances of becoming without dispute the strongest village of the major five. They don't deserve anything we have in Konoha. They don't deserve anything. I say deny them what they claim is owed and never apologize for it, stated Danzo harshly while stomping his cane angrily at the man. Hiruzen saw how Danzo was gripping his new cane tightly in his one remaining hand and remembered how Yamamoto had crippled him 3 months ago. Danzo had tried to approach Yamamoto in private in the belief he could turn the man to his side in overthrowing Hiruzen for the title of Hokage. Hinting that the old man should assist him in removing the Sandaime because of the man's past sins against the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan. Danzo was not innocent in the schemes concocted either, but he was sure Yamamoto did not know that, and decided to press onward in the belief that he could effectively manipulate the Uzumaki into unknowingly be his weapon. Only to have Yamamoto draw his sword and slice into Danzo with deadly precision. The old Uzumaki took Danzo's right arm and eye and used the fire manifesting ability of his Zanpakuto to cauterize the wound instantly. The platoon of Root Nin in hiding rushed to their master's defense, but were instantly burned alive, and turned into ash before Danzo's remaining horrified eye. The man couldn't even go to the Sandaime Hokage since Root shouldn't even exist now due to Hiruzen having, officially, ordered Root be disbanded now that the Second Shinobi War was over and would only be brought back out should another one manifest itself. Do not test me Shimura Danzo, or you will find that there are worse things to fear than death. Even now the sting to his pride, dignity, body, and soul still stung Danzo fiercely since he was unable to recover from such injuries, thus forcing him to retire from being an active shinobi, and Hiruzen had put him on as a third shinobi advisor. Both to help keep Danzo close by to take a fall if Hiruzen felt it was necessary and to ensure the crippled man felt he was still important to some extent. Like Danzo, the Sandaime Hokage saw people as tools. But unlike Danzo, the Sandaime Hokage still saw how to use broken tools over throwing them away. Tsunade had of course tried to heal his injuries, but the Sannin had told Danzo it was not possible, even with her skills. At best could give him a new eye to replace his lost one so he could see better. Danzo turned it down though since he didn't want a normal weak eye to replace his sharp one. Yes, I'm sure the permanent mark Yamamoto left on your body and soul has nothing to do with it, commented Hiruzen while smirking at Danzo's crippled state and knew the man was lying straight through his teeth. Konoha the morgue. Ah, the body of Uzumaki Yamamoto himself. Such an intriguing figure. Even in death, his form still looks as imposing as ever. He doesn't even look dead. Just asleep. Don't you agree Jiraiya? Remarked Orochimaru with a grin on his face since he sensed Jiraiya here in the morgue seconds after arriving himself. Yeah, my heart is all aflutter. Hurry up and get what you need Orochimaru. I want my time to spit on the corpse and give his stupid wrinkled face a punch to take to the other side, commented Jiraiya angrily since he was pissed that not only was Tsunade married to that sissy boy Dan, but not long after their honeymoon, she was pregnant. She even had the nerve to say that if the child was in fact boy, it would be named after Yamamoto. It was insulting. Jiraiya felt she should be having his child, not Dan's. His. Jiraiya of the Sannin. It was not fair. Oh, stop complaining Jiraiya. Besides, Tsunade made it clear to you a long time ago that she was not interested in you on such a romantic level. Go write a book or something. It just might help you clear your head of the useless junk swimming within it, commented Orochimaru while Jiraiya bristled at the insult to his mind. Shut up Teme, exclaimed Jiraiya angrily before he saw Orochimaru frowning. Interesting. There is some kind of seal here, remarked Orochimaru while he began his own examination of the old Uzumaki. What seal? Let me see, exclaimed Jiraiya before shoving Orochimaru out of the way and began to examine it himself. Only for the seal to suddenly activate into their shock and sudden horror. The eyes of Uzumaki Yamamoto opened once more. The old man was alive, and currently had both Sannin by the throat in an iron grip. I see. I have been dead for less than a day and already you are here to pilfer from my corpse like vultures smelling dead flesh, commented Yamamoto angrily before sitting up and looking the two dead in the eyes. How? Questioned Orochimaru while Jiraiya was thinking the same thing. You would be surprised what can be sealed away. While this sudden return is in fact only temporary, it's more than enough time needed to take care of you two for your past sins, answered Yamamoto with Orochimaru and Jiraiya realizing what he had done. Somehow, the old Uzumaki actually sealed away a part of his life force until a certain moment in time where it would unlock, and give Yamamoto a temporary second life. We don't know what you are talking about, exclaimed Jiraiya before finding the grip on his throat tighten. Do not take me for a fool, Jiraiya. I know you two conspired with Hiruzen to destroy my clan. I know it was you two who conspired with Hiruzen to kill Nawaki for his genetic material to use in the unethical experiments Orochimaru here was performing. And I also know it was you, Jiraiya, who conspired with Hiruzen, and tried to have Dan killed simply because he was going to marry Tsunade. I spared your miserable lives the much-needed death you two deserved because it wasn't your time to die. Now that is no longer an issue. The world has no further need of whelps like the two of you, exclaimed Yamamoto with his grip on them increasing. We weren't the only ones. Danzo was part of it too. So were Kaharu and Homura, said Jiraiya in an attempt to direct the Uzumaki's wrath to them over himself. I know that, you idiot. I know a many great things you have done. What Orochimaru has done, what Hiruzen has done, what Danzo has done, and of course what his advisors have done. They will all pay at a later time. Right now, you are the only deaths I need to concern myself with, replied Yamamoto before calling forth his Zanpakuto's power with his mind setting the room ablaze. What are you doing? Stop, stop, we'll be burned alive, pleaded Jiraiya while looking into Yamamoto's eyes and saw they were unwavering. You say that as if I should care. I made my intentions perfectly clear to my clan what was going to befall me while in Konoha upon my death. They don't need my body. Just my sword, and I assure you, it will survive this fire moving to consume us because it is the fire. My will of fire, exclaimed Yamamoto while the flames became more intense. No, I have so many potential test subjects I need to gather and experiment on. Theories that need testing, thought Orochimaru while trying to get out of the man's grip, but was finding it impossible. And he had just heard of the rumors of where to find the legendary Kusanagi too. Your tainted souls shall be purged from this world. Nothing will change that. In doing so, the future will be a much better place for all. Not just Konoha like you intended with the Sandaime in some firm belief you could ascend to some form of godhood, finished Yamamoto before the fire moved in on all three of them. Damn you, yelled Orochimaru and Jiraiya angrily as the fire consumed all three of them before causing a massive explosion. When the Hokage, Tsunade, Kushina, and a team of Anbu entered the scorched area hours later upon deeming it safe, all that remained was one Uzumaki Yamamoto's Zanpakuto, fully sheathed, in the middle of the room, and looking completely fine. As if it had not just been in an enraging inferno and explosion earlier that day. Hiruzen scowled angrily at the sight. He knew both his students had been here when this unexplained explosion and fire happened earlier. He knew Yamamoto was involved. He knew that this sword was the source of the fire that consumed his two students. That this sword caused the explosion to bring about the figuratively placed icing on the cake. If it weren't for the fact Tsunade and Kushina were here, he would use all his strength and his power to break the damn thing into multiple pieces. Sadly, Tsunade along with Kushina were in front of the sword before he could even give the order to his Anbu to get the sword. At the very least, Hiruzen intended to seal the damn thing away, use some kind of excuse that it was too powerful for anyone else to wield, and bury it deep in the Hokage vault. Before he could tell Tsunade or Kushina to give him the sword, they were already heading out the door. Where are you heading with that? Asked Hiruzen with Kushina holding it tightly. We're sending it back to Uzu. Where it belongs, answered Tsunade stiffly while she did not look at her former sensei. That is not going back to Uzu. It's going in the Hokage vault and be sealed away until further notice, ordered the Sandame with Kushina glaring at him. It's part of the Uzumaki clan. Hence it belongs in Uzu, countered Kushina with the Sandame Hokage scowling. It's a sword, nothing more. Anyone can wield it and as such I won't allow its power to fall into irresponsible hands, stated Hiruzen while Kushina glared at him. You never liked old man Yama. You always hated him. You, Danzo Teme, Orochi Teme, and Ero Sennin, remarked Kushina while Hiruzen frowned while knowing he had to tread very carefully. I didn't hate him, Kushina. I just didn't approve of him constantly interfering in matters that were not something he should be interfering with in the first place. Regardless of his intentions, countered Hiruzen while the two women glared at him. He only interfered when the time called for it. Because of his interference, both Nawaki and Dan are alive today. Uzu is alive and a strong reliable ally with them using my medic program to bolster their strength. The man helped make the transition for Kushina being here easier. He was going to unite the Hyuga clan into a single united house through legitimate means. Exclaimed Kushina while Hiruzen, since he knew most of the clan heads and the Uchiha and Hyuga clan head supported Yamamoto on many occasions. Regardless, his sword is still too dangerous for anyone to wield. Look what it did here in this room, Tsunade. Kushina. Because of his weapon, Jiraiya and Orochimaru are now dead. The village is now weaker because of him, stated Hiruzen while Tsunade glared at him. And just why were those two here in the first place? Neither of them had the right to be here. Much less to see him, said Tsunade while Hiruzen bit back a curse at the slip-up of mentioning those two being here. I don't know, but I'm sure it was to pay their respects to such a great man, lied Hiruzen while Kushina and Tsunade glanced at each other. You didn't need to be an Uzumaki censor to know the Hokage was lying about that. I doubt it, sensei. Regardless, I'm not surrendering Yamamoto-sama's sword to you or to Konoha. I have already spoken to Garp-sama about this prior to now. He's claiming the sword as a clan relic and thus will not allow Konoha to have the sword in the village's possession. Something about Konoha's tainted fire in the letter when reading his reply, said Tsunade while Hiruzen glared at her. And I'm saying the sword is not theirs to claim. I don't care what clan Yamamoto was born from. That sword is not leaving Konoha or the vault. It is my command as Hokage and it will obeyed, replied Hiruzen while the Anbu moved to take it from Kushina. Try and Uzu will end the alliance with Konoha. Not only that, but the Senju clan will leave this village, and any other clan that chooses to follow, threatened Tsunade with Hiruzen looking shocked before frowning and ordered his Anbu to freeze with a simple gesture of the hand. You would abandon the village your family helped build? Questioned Hiruzen while Tsunade glared at him. If this village is going to spit on the legacy of my family? Then yes, I will leave it to fall down because of people like you who are causing it to rot from the inside. Just admit it, sensei, ever since you have become Hokage, there has been an ever-growing dislike for the Uzumaki clan here in Konoha. Kushina saw it growing up and was able to endure it thanks to Yamamoto-sama and Grandma Mito. I saw it too. So did Nawaki and even Dan as the years went by when looking at the people. There was even the 3 different failed break-in attempts at the Senju clan home with evidence suggesting the culprits were after Uzumaki clan secrets. The fact someone tried to enter using means only a friend could get into the home in secret suggests someone inside Konoha was responsible. At first, I thought the people were hating the Uzumaki clan because Kushina herself wasn't from here originally. But now I realize they are doing it due to them being stupid and arrogant while someone high up has been secretly urging them on, replied Tsunade while her former sensei just stared back at her and she knew he knew about them. What she didn't know was Jiraiya was the one behind them. But the Uzumaki seals when it came to security were second to none. Jiraiya had barely managed to make it out of the house all 3 times barely alive. He was, officially, on a long-term mission during each attempt so no one would question if the man suddenly came back to Konoha with a new understanding of Fuinjutsu. Jiraiya also had to lay low following these events due to his injuries requiring time to heal, and it was only due to his false alibi that no one suspected it was him. Though Hiruzen was now wondering if perhaps Yamamoto knew, but chose not to reveal anything because he decided it was better used as optional leverage in the future. Hiruzen also wondered if perhaps Tsunade and Kushina knew due to Yamamoto telling them so they would keep their guard up around Jiraiya. That's a heavy accusation to be made by you, Tsunade. One close to being called treason if the implication in your voice behind it being me is any indication, remarked Hiruzen while Tsunade just looked at him. Is it true, sensei? Swear on the life of your wife and children that you had nothing to do with any of it? Or the law you tried to pass stating those born of foreign nationality can never become Hokage? Even if the person proves they are not only qualified but loyal to a fault, and have served Konoha faithfully. You know, the one you tried to push through when neither Nawaki nor myself were around to vote against due to missions when the time came to decide on the issue, questioned Tsunade while Hiruzen glaring at her. That law is to protect us from foreign people from becoming the leader of this village and destroying us from within. Who is to say a ninja from another village like Iwa or Kumo leaves under the pretense of defecting, becomes Hokage years later, and then uses his or her position to weaken us to the point where our enemies can crush us with ease? Challenged Hiruzen while Tsunade and Kushina stayed silent for a second before Tsunade smirked. You didn't deny being a part of the past crimes I mentioned earlier, remarked Tsunade while Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. I am the Hokage. You don't have the right to judge me on my decisions whether they are possibly ethical or not. In this case, every action I have done is beyond reproach. Now give my Anbu that damn sword or you too will be thrown in jail for treason and kept there until the next Hokage is appointed, threatened Hiruzen while Kushina's eyes were now narrowing before she felt a faint pulse of assurance from the sword. Getting what the sword was telling her, Kushina stepped forward to the total surprise of Tsunade, and gave it to the Anbu captain. Only, as soon as she let go of it, Kushina, Tsunade, Hiruzen, and the other Anbu with them watched in horror as the new holder was consumed in fire by the sword and turned into ash. Not worthy to hold. Those were the 4 words that echoed throughout the room before the now hovering weapon flew to Kushina's hands. You knew that would happen, accused Hiruzen while Kushina smirked. Prove it, Kushina shot back while Hiruzen continued to glare. Face it, sensei. You lost this round. Orochimaru and Jiraiya were here to see Yamamoto-sama's body unlawfully. They paid the price for whatever reason they were down here with their lives. So did that Anbu just now in trying to take Yamamoto-sama's sword from Kushina. How many more people have to die until you get the message? Remarked Tsunade with her former sensei saying nothing. Let's go. Garp-sama will want this back in Uzu immediately, commented Kushina with Tsunade nodding. Damn it. If another Uzumaki clan member wields that blade, it will mean someone on par with Yamamoto himself will be around to cause problems. Add in Orochimaru's own death and Jiraiya's has damaged Konoha considerably, with the former's R&D projects and the latter's spy network being stalled in the process. It means we will have to rely on the unreliable minds in R&D to fill Orochimaru's genius-filled sandals and the Uzumaki clan for picking up the slack surrounding Jiraiya's spy network. The former isn't that much of a problem, but the latter requires we lean on Uzu more for support, and they have made it clear they're not above cutting ties with those they deem an enemy if the signs are there, thought Hiruzen while upset the Uzumaki clan was so influential within Konoha right now. Hiruzen still couldn't believe the Uzumaki shrine was removed of all the masks with the contents sent to Uzu and the temple itself was destroyed by Yamamoto himself. He had intended for Orochimaru to secretly visit the temple after Mito died to see if the man could learn the secrets behind it. Kushina wouldn't have been an issue since Hiruzen would have kept her away from it, but Yamamoto, Mito, and the Uzumaki clan had all meddled in his schemes. Preventing the near annihilation of the Uzumaki clan or order to monopolize the right to having the Kyuubi in Konoha. The Senju clan having a second chance to rise up again after their own moment of near extinction and thus prevented Hiruzen from monopolizing their power for his own gains. Taking of the Shinigami masks from the Uzumaki clan shrine. Those could be used to free any soul from the Shinigami and thus could possibly be used to cheat the deity of any soul in its possession. Namely himself. Hiruzen wanted to live forever to wield the power of a god and crush his enemies underfoot without anyone knowing the truth until it was too late to stop him. Many would tell Hiruzen that his children were his true legacy and true means of immortality, but the Sandaime Hokage thought those people telling him such things were idiots. His children or future grandchildren weren't an extension of immortality for him. Only immortality was considered immortality. His only hope now in salvaging this situation was finding the perfect successor to his title as Hokage and ensure this person finished it. Or at least found a way to bring him back in a way that would allow Hiruzen to live forever afterwards. Something Hiruzen himself knew he would quite possibly not, given how long it would actually take to remotely fix his plan and train a worthy successor to carry said plan out. Because even Hiruzen knew that even with the Edo Tensei, for all its greatness, it was not true immortality, and the titled Kami no Shinobi had no intention of being a puppet to the one using it on him. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.